Welcome to the Greater Richmond Convention Center for APFC Virginia, the prelims on YouTube. We have several exciting bouts scheduled before you this evening before going live on UFC Fight Pass. Tonight's undercard bouts are sanctioned by the Global Combat Alliance with our head official, Joanna Katabawi, in attendance. Our judges scoring the bout's cage side are Alan Stevenson, Aaron Harris, and Lisa Cuellar. And when the action begins, the referees in charge are Matthew Goodert and Jason King. And now it's time to start our first fight of the evening. Please welcome to the cage our first fighter, coming to us by way of the blue corner, Ruben Velasquez.
It's Ruben. Out there and perform. And actions speak louder than words. Being a high school wrestling coach, there is no better tangible way to give back to the community than sharpening the tools of the next generation. You know, when we asked him about the skill set and what his strategy is coming into tonight, it's just the wrestling, but he feels that maybe we're going to get a bit more striking out of Ruben Velasquez than we typically would.
Very much so. You know, he said he's been working on being a well-rounded mixed martial artist as well, and he knows with that wrestling background, he'll be able to put the pressure on anybody, and he doesn't believe that his opponent will be able to stand up to that.
Talking about his opponent, you know, Ruben Velasquez on Matt Thompson did mention the length and reach that Thompson is going to have. But when we think about wrestlers, historically they are really good at getting in on the hips and negating all of those physical advantages. I imagine that one Ruben Velasquez will be able to do that to you tonight.
Very much so. More than anything, it's the wrestling mentality. You know, wrestlers are some of the toughest athletes there is. You know, they do everything they do for the grind, not the glory. And I think Velasquez is going to carry that into the cage tonight.
You can hear that war cry befitting a true gladiator. Making the APFC debut, it's Ruben Velasquez.
Got a little jig there for the audience, man. I didn't expect that.
Matt Thompson is similarly 27 years young, but that is where the similarities end. From California, now in Richmond at the MMA Institute under Rick McCoy. One of the biggest things that Matt Thompson told us was the disability that he is living with and battling with every day, bipolar disorder. He said that when he was younger, he felt disconnected to society, but training and competing has bridged that gap considerably. The martial arts doing a lot for one young Matt Thompson. Felt like he's a lifelong practitioner, but just getting into the sport recently, I would say in the last couple of years. Started on CFFC, now he's here tonight at APFC.
Very much so, man, and I was honestly moved and touched during my conversation with him the other day. You know, not only does he have the disability with bipolar disorder, he also openly admitted, like, hey, I'm on the spectrum as well. And he goes out there and he trains and he wants to get in there and get in the cage to show anyone out there that's watching that anything is possible. Inspiration
Exudes from this 27-year-old. He did quote, anyone can do anything they put their mind to, they just have to try. And Matt Thompson is certainly trying something here tonight, David.
I mean, how do you not root for a kid like that?
Both guys predicted a second round finish. Matt Thompson did acknowledge that the wrestling of Velasquez was something he needed to watch out for and be wary of, but said that the striking was better, so feels like we might get the age-old striker versus grappler in our first fight here at APFC 6. We send it inside to Shane Graham to get our first bout underway.
3-minute rounds in the APFC middleweight division, and is presented to us by third coach Introducing first, fighting in the blue corner. This man is a mixed martial artist standing at 6 feet tall. He weighed in at 183.2 pounds and fights out of Rock Hill, South Carolina. Here is Ruben Velasquez. Fighting in the red corner, a mixed martial artist standing at 6 feet, 2 inches tall. He weighed in at 185.8 pounds and fights out of Richmond, Virginia. Here is Matthew Thompson. And when the action begins, our referee in charge is Jason King.
Middleweight action gets us going. Matt Thompson in the all-black, Ruben Velasquez in the modern warrior yellow trunks and the blue gloves. Hard to believe that this guy was 265 when he was playing college football. Now he's slimmed down considerably and really fits that frame.
Definitely, man. He's built like a tank, and I'm excited to see how explosive and athletic he's going to be in this performance tonight.
Ready? Fight!
Ruben Velasquez riding a unanimous decision victory in May of this year to kick off his career. Here comes Matt Thompson, though, clinching against the cage.
Thompson getting off first, came right in with that body kick and just the lead jab right in behind it. Now he's in on the leg, maybe to get his opponent to the ground here. Great position in the back position.
Ruben Velasquez trying to shake off Thompson, but Matt Thompson sticking to him like glue in the early frames of round number one. Love what he's doing with his legs right there.
Very much so, man. That's going to keep him on his opponent's back. I mean, even if you're a leg rider, I don't know, you have some jiu-jitsu experience now,
We got to stop bringing this up.
I don't know if you've ever been there, but, you know, the legs are going to keep him attached to his opponent's back. He's kind of high, so the principle generally is let's try to stay behind the armpits. But, you know, Thompson, he is a jiu-jitsu practitioner. He knows what he's doing clearly, and I want to see where he's going to go next for him.
And I love those mid-sequence adjustments from Thompson, but out the back door is Ruben Velasquez. Now turning the tables, that right hand getting some work in, but Thompson covering up well.
Very much so. There's that athleticism that we were kind of expecting to see from Velasquez. Just literally shot out the back, and as soon as he got the back position, looking to create some damage there.
1:43 left in round number one. Attempt right there of a trip, but not working. Velasquez on the inside, landing some punches.
That was a beautiful attempt at the trip, and even though it didn't get Thompson completely out of the position, it opened up a window for him to get out of there. Now his opponent, Velasquez, being a little bit stubborn, putting his back against the cage. I think that's where Velasquez is probably more so comfortable.
You know, Velasquez was pretty honest about how he wasn't sure how the victory was going to come. Didn't know if it was going to be a knockout or a submission, but he just knew that he was going to get the hand raised tonight. Now a separation, both guys reset.
Very much so, and he's looking for that big right hand over the top. I mean, I've seen it a few times. Now he switched it up, went to the body to try to time it up top, and he's having some success there.
Excellent level change by Thompson. Felt like he was getting cracked and tried to take this back to where he felt comfortable with it. Amateur rule set here, but no shin guards. I mean, that's shin on shin, David.
I mean, you're basically fighting pro at this point. I mean, we did that when I was coming up in Missouri as an amateur, my first couple amateur fights, man. At this point, it's like you're basically fighting a professional fight.
37 seconds remains. Thompson trying to maintain this close proximity. Velasquez, though, does reverse. What does Thompson need to do in the last moments of round one here?
So you definitely don't want to finish with your back against the cage, right? I mean, judges typically have a short-term memory, so the last thing they see is typically how they judge the round. So if you're Thompson, you definitely want to try to create space. He has the overhook, maybe look to turn his hips out and maybe go back to that trip and do something to get Velasquez off of his hips so he can get his back off of the cage.
Certainly easier said than done. David, if you ask my girlfriend, she'll probably say I've got short-term memory too.
Oh, well, you know what? I'm going to stay out of the partner domestic disputes there.
Velasquez going to work inside the clinch, swinging hammers to close round number one. Seemed like a decently close affair in the grappling, but the striking, all Velasquez.
Very much so, and it's really just, he's not super technical, but he's just taking the initiative just to throwing punches and bunches. Thompson seems to be a little more measured in his approach, but I think Velasquez's intensity is what gives him that round.
If you're Matt Thompson, you felt kind of the fire and the flames that Ruben Velasquez has to offer. What's the counter? What's the adjustment he can make coming into round 2?
I don't think he really needs to make any adjustments. He got in some really good positions. Maybe he just needs to move with a sense of urgency to get to his back and get his opponent down. Here we have the replay where we have Velasquez coming out of the back door, extremely explosive and landing some punches there. Heavy punches there on his back. But Thompson wasn't giving up. We saw he attempted that trip, was able to create some space, but Velasquez staying right on him and getting right back to that body lock position. Nice body shot, that left hook to that big right hand, which we saw Velasquez trying to time. Thompson being smart. I mean, I'm loving this matchup here. These guys are going toe-to-toe.
Round 2 between Thompson and Velasquez. Our first fight here at 185 pounds. You can see Thompson with a couple deep breaths, but each guy more than ready for these next 3 minutes. We get underway.
Look at the focus on Thompson.
Oh! Bit of a slip right there. Thompson in on the takedown. Velasquez still going to work on the hands. Big knee right there from Velasquez.
Decent recovery by Thompson, but he's just hanging there on the leg. He'd almost do better to just let him go at this point, because Velasquez is just teeing off on his head, and we see fights in there sometimes, Ben.
Referee's taking a close look. A lot of unanswered blows. Ruben Velasquez trying to close this one out. Second round stoppage. Violence from Velasquez, David.
Violence for sure. Thompson was defending, right? But he wasn't taking the initiative to advance his position. And I think that's why the referee stopped the fight. He took some heavy shots, but he was just stuck on the leg. I mean, Velasquez, he was like, you're gonna hang out there, I'm gonna make you pay for it and think about shooting on my leg the next time.
And talking about magic inside those small moments, I mean, that knee right when Thompson was in on the entry, picture perfect. You can't teach that type of
You cannot
timing.
teach that reaction, that timing. That's just something that's innate within Velasquez. The violence, a little dancing, it's a good mixture. I'm liking it. What a great way to start off APFC.
The St. Augustine right guard making waves in the combat sports sphere. What a finish here at APFC. We're going to take you to a couple replays. David Evans, walk me through this finish.
Here we have the replay, man. Velasquez just came out through that switch knee right up the middle. Thompson did a good job with getting to the leg. However, he wasn't looking to transition and go anywhere. So Velasquez just taking the initiative and throwing those big hammer blows down. After the ref seen enough after a few minutes, man, I kind of felt bad for Thompson. He was maybe one move away from being in a better position. However, he just hung out there a couple seconds too long, and Velasquez took advantage of it, and that's the end.
We send it inside to Shane Graham to make that finish official.
At 35 seconds of the second round, declaring the winner by TKO, Ruben Velasquez.
Job well done. Ruben Velasquez remains undefeated, picks up a big finish here. First one of the career. Excellent job by the Mexican here tonight.
Very much so. I was impressed by both of those guys, you know, by Thompson, not only because of his mission and what he's fighting for, but truly from a martial artist standpoint, I think he has a high potential. But Velasquez, man, the potential for violence is what carried him through this fight, and that was an exciting fight to watch.
Hopefully we see him back. There he is, victorious here tonight. We're going to take it inside to Shane Graham to bring our next 2 opponents inside the ring.
I might have to pick up my two-step here, Ben, after watching Velasquez, man. I don't know. I got some moves.
We'll take him dancing later.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for our next bout of the evening. Please welcome to the cage our first fighter, coming to us by way of the blue corner, Mike Delozier.
There is a reason why this individual is known as the Big Hayes. At 265, it simply doesn't get bigger. Born and bred in Durham, North Carolina, standing at 6 feet, 3 inches tall. This 27-year-old has a reach of 78 inches. and is coached by Kev Satterfield. When we think about this heavyweight weight class, David, what are some of the things that pop into your mind?
Well, first of all, size. I think he'd be better off walking into an NFL combine than an MMA cage. But no, I mean, with the heavyweights, you can always expect power and exciting finishes.
That's one thing Mike assured us yesterday is that, listen, this one's not going to go to the scorecards. He's anticipating a quick stoppage, feels confident everywhere. I mean, he was laid back in the chair when we were talking with him. I mean, there could be an earthquake going on and this guy wouldn't move.
He was calm, he was cool, he was collected, but he also said, hey, I got experience fighting in the street, and I'm carrying that mentality into the cage with me tonight. So we can go out there and look for him to just get out there and be explosive almost immediately.
And certainly a big experience edge here. Delozier comes in with a record of 2-2, whereas Anthony Rossi, his opponent, has only had one fight. So you would think that he's seen a bit more looks than Rossi has coming into this APFC bout.
Very much so, man. There's nothing better when it comes to MMA than learning on the job and getting that round-around cage experience positionally. And I think Mike's going to use that to his advantage here.
The Big Hayes entering in APFC 6 here tonight. We'll see what he can do.
His opponent set to make his way to the cage, fighting out of the red corner, Anthony Rossi.
Here is Anthony Rossi, 1-0 overall from Crofton, Maryland, 6'2", weighing in at 247 pounds. 12 months separate these two individuals, and he also has a reach of 78 inches. When we were talking to Tony, same thing, just a reserved demeanor, really didn't seem too excited or nervous either way you cut it. He's just here to fight.
Very much a no-nonsense approach by him. When I spoke to him, he said he has a wealth of wrestling experience, and he plans to go out there and just put the pressure and wrestle his opponent. You know, so I think this is also a good clash of styles.
I like the facial hair that he's got. There's a lot of depth to it. The sides are a little thinner. The front's a little thicker. I'm a big fan of what he's got going on his head.
I'm not a hair architect myself, but, you know, I got a good barber. Shout out to Drizzy, my guy. The transitions are what you're speaking to, the depth, the transitions and depth and the fade. That's a testament to his hairstylist there.
The transitions and the fade. We'll certainly be seeing some of those at 265 here in our second bout of the evening.
They throwing fades tonight, Ben. Who's going to be the first one to catch one?
You can see Mike Big Hayes Delozier feinting some checking of the leg kicks potentially. Might be anticipating Tony throwing those downstairs.
You know what, Ben? I got a feeling about this one. I don't know, but I got a feeling we're about to see something here tonight.
Athletic Commission seems satisfied with Rossi. Or not. And they are. Here he comes. Let's take it to a quick tale of the tape between Anthony Rossi and Mike Delozier. 1-0 for Anthony Rossi, 2-2 for the Big Hayes. 12 months separate these two individuals, but only 1 inch. Anthony Rossi weighed in at 247, Mike Delozier at 243. We take it inside to Shane Graham to get this heavyweight bout underway.
Ladies and gentlemen, this next fight is three 3-minute rounds in the APFC heavyweight division, brought to us by Real Brazil Steakhouse. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, a mixed martial artist standing at 6 feet, 3 inches tall. He weighed in at 243.2 pounds and fights out of Durham, North Carolina. Here is Big Hayes, Mike Delozier. And his opponent, fighting out of the red corner, a mixed martial artist standing at 6 feet, 2 inches tall. He weighed in at 247.4 pounds and fights out of Crofton, Maryland. Here is Anthony Rossi. And when the action begins, our referee in charge is Matthew Goodhart.
This second bout is brought to you by Real Brazil Steakhouse. We were there last night. Excellent meats that they've got on tap. Tony Rossi takes on Mike Delozier, his most experienced foe to date. You can see both guys getting a positive reception here from the Greater Richmond Convention Center.
And just the way they're staring each other down, man. They're relaxed, but there's a lot of intensity behind it.
Delozier takes the center. Big stick right there by Rossi.
Nice jab there by Delozier.
That was quick.
Yeah, seems to be very loose.
And a big teep up the middle. I like the patience and composure. You see some guys that really just go all out immediately, but this is a testing, patient first couple moments.
Delozier doing a good job stepping in and stepping out. However, we expected Rossi to get right to the wrestling right away, which he does, catches that kick, flips Delozier against the cage, and now he's ready in a good position to go to work.
Look at those knees from Rossi. I mean, kicking that right leg out like a horse. That can't feel good, David.
Smart. I mean, in little shots like those, they take a toll over time, and that could carry him through the fight if this goes into those deep second and third rounds.
And you got to think Rossi throwing that wayward teep, and Delozier throwing it and Rossi capitalizing. That might be that inexperience showing itself.
Very much so, and that's also going to make Delozier a little timid, if they get back to their feet to throw the legs, as he knows that Rossi's going to expect it, and he feels the wrestling pressure by Rossi.
Anthony Rossi deep in here. There's a shot potentially a bit low. Referee didn't see it. We continue.
Rossi doing a great job, keeping head control there, keeping his head right in Delozier's jaw line. That's going to pin him against the cage. And now all he has to do, he can really just sit there and just chip away at his opponent. He doesn't have to do much. The onus now is on Delozier.
Grueling positional control by Anthony Rossi. 90 seconds remain in round number one. Mike Delozier laughing a little bit, but you got to do a little bit more than laugh to get out of that position, David.
A little grin. I'm glad he feels comfortable in that position. However, at the same time, he's losing the round.
Once again, big knees by Rossi. A disciplined approach right here from him. Not making many mistakes. We get a separation. Let's see what the big Hayes can do. Massive connection upstairs.
Delozier coming forward right away. Getting back to that jab where he had success early on.
Big whiff right there from Big Hayes. I like how he's throwing that check left, but gets clipped right there from Rossi.
Back to the teeth again. So Delozier really seems unfazed almost by Rossi's wrestling attack here.
Oh, big attempt by Rossi. Reversed by Delozier momentarily. Those guys just kind of flopped on the canvas.
Yeah, great sprawl there by Delozier, man. Great sprawl, great scramble, back to his feet. Now he's back to where he's comfortable.
Each guy's really educated with that lead hand. You can see orthodox on orthodox, both tools available to him. Excellent stick by Hayes.
Delozier just seems to be a little more loose and comfortable on his feet. I think if this goes into the second round, Rossi's going to want to tie him up, man, as quick as he can, because Delozier's catching his groove.
That was a big attempt right there from Delozier to end things, just winging those shots. You can see a couple deep breaths, but still smiling is the Big Hayes.
He was very calm, cool, collected in the fight, much like he was in the interview. I was a little worried when he got his back against the cage, but he made the adjustments, got to where he wanted to be.
What do you think about the highlights here from round number one? David Evans, walk me through it.
Well, here we have Delozier, man, just came out snapping that jab. However, Rossi caught that kick and got to the game plan. He's like, hey, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to wrestle. He put his opponent against the cage, chipped away at him with knees, and did everything he needed to do in that position. But Delozier got right back to his feet and went right back to work. Jab, jab, right hand, throwing that sneaky kick. Was able to defend the takedown, which I like to see because I was a little worried initially. So we saw a little everything in that first round. I got to give it to Delozier. I like his composure, even though Rossi was hey, no pun intended. I liked his composure, even though Rossi was able to wrestle him and get back to the cage. He seemed to be, the Big Hayes was unfazed. Let me go 2 for 2 on this one.
Look at that. David keeping it clean. Will say my big question is the sort of wayward shots, right? The risky maneuvers right there that give Anthony Rossi moments to either push him against the cage or shoot for those takedowns. If I'm Delozier, stick behind the jab, I feel, and wait till things manifest themselves.
Very much so. I mean, he could definitely add a layer by feinting some of his strikes and getting Rossi to commit on the shot to where he can counter.
Big connection by both guys early in round two. Anthony Rossi, body language looking good, but it's a big left hook right there from Delozier.
Delozier doing a good job just staying loose with his hands, feinting up and down, just seeming very relaxed and comfortable there.
Leg kick right there from Rossi, barely connects. Delozier eats a shot coming in. Feels like his head's a little bit on the center line, David Evans.
Very much so. Even though he's comfortable and fluid throwing his strikes, when you can punch and slip at the same time, it almost makes you like you're always a missed target at that point. And if he adds that, I mean, to his striking, he's going to be in a good position.
Feels like Anthony Rossi's trying to feint that inside leg kick to come over with the right hand, a little Dan Henderson-esque maybe.
Yeah, I mean, he snapped that one, and that's also going to make his opponent think the next time he feints it and possibly set up that big right hand.
Oh, Big Hayes winging some shots, cuts open Rossi.
Speaking of big right hand, Hayes snuck one right in there over the shoulder of Rossi and got his attention.
If you need any indication of how powerful Delozier is, look at that laceration on the cheek of Anthony Rossi.
Very much so, and Rossi being smart here, going back to, you know, his wheelhouse with the wrestling and being able to close the distance. You know, last time he got Delozier here, he was able to just ride him out for about 30 to 45 seconds and just land those knees, chop and chip away at his opponent, and now he's getting back to that, and that could steal the round for him.
100%. 1 minute, 15 seconds remains. The Big Hayes still smiling here, finds some separation. Each guy meets in the center. Rossi forces him backwards.
Now Rossi's bleeding. You know, he doesn't have a wealth of experience we talked about. Now what he has to do is he can't panic. He's cut, but he's still in a good position to win his fight. However, Delozier, on the other hand, sees blood.
Mike Delozier uncorking a lot of taxing strikes. Could be exhausting. Rossi finds the back. Bad news right here, David.
Rossi getting back to his wheelhouse with the wrestling. He's taking his opponents back here in this position against the cage. This, I believe, is the third time now. And this is also going to wear away at his opponent. You know, once you carry all 200 and whatever pounds these heavyweights weigh, you know, Delozier's not going to have that same spunk when he's striking on his feet.
And while Anthony Rossi does only have one fight, he's cornered here tonight by Josh Francis, Junior Ruby, and Cameron Howard. Some serious combat sports professionals that are guiding him and leading him here. Final 15 seconds. Delozier absolutely cornered here on the cage, David.
Delozier has to do a better job in this position. He has to learn to pummel and get the underhooks. He's hanging out there with the overhook. However, all that's doing is keeping his opponent attached to him, which is where Rossi wants to be.
Anthony Rossi busted open and bleeding, but an amazing end to round number 2. David Evans, take us through some of these highlights from that second frame.
So here we have it. They were standing on their feet where I thought Delozier was the better man, and he landed that big right hand and cut his opponent Rossi there. And after that, Rossi got right back to his wheelhouse, got back to the shot, got to his back, and that's where he hung out and chipped away at his opponent. Big right hand by Rossi. He almost dropped there now that we see that in the slow motion, but did a great job of getting his hands back up, staying calm, staying composed, and got back to his game plan. Even though he doesn't have a ton of experience, that is a veteran move right there to be able to recover from that.
And you can see him smiling here in the corner. We're going to take it to one more takedown from round number 2. Beautiful entry right there, David Evans.
Great double leg takedown by Rossi. Got in there, wasn't so sold on finishing on the double leg, took the back right away, which was also a smart move, not wasting energy and wasting motion and taking his opponent's back.
High test on both sides. The undefeated Anthony Rossi and Mike Big Hayes Delozier find themselves in round number 3. Last couple minutes, David, somebody's got to make a big statement here. It could be 1-1.
I think it is 1-1 right now. We got it. I gave the first one there to Delozier because of his intensity coming out. I gave the second one to Rossi. He took some damage, recovered, but got back to his game plan, had a lot of ground control. And here we have it. Here we see this story all night. He's controlling his opponent against the cage, and Delozier, like I said earlier, the onus here is on Delozier to get his back off against the cage.
Some separation here. A low blow is called. Anthony Rossi sneaks one up into the crotch. Not where you want to be, David.
You know, it happens sometimes. I'm not saying it's intentional, but, you know, also, you know, Delozier has his back against the wall, so to speak. Did it really land clean? Do we have a replay? I don't know. The world may never know.
Here it is. We're going to cleaner look at a dirty blow downstairs. David, let me know what you see.
Let's see. You know, I'll give it to him. I'll give it to him. That was, you know, I'll give it to him. That was about as clean as it can get.
No dispute there. Mike Delozier getting a moment to rest. The Big Hayes with a few deep breaths. Tony Rossi likely going to go back to the grappling as soon as this fight commences.
Delozier right back to the center of the cage there, looking to strike, throwing that lead left hand, looking for the big right hand, which he had some success with in the second round.
He's shown that he can stun Anthony Rossi, but can he put him away? Mike Delozier steamrolling into the pocket with a big land.
A lot better head movement this round by Delozier.
Oh! Down goes Rossi momentarily, pops back up.
Check left hook there by Delozier, but he was moving his head, then he got excited and stopped, man. His striking was looking fluid there for about 10 seconds.
Mike Delozier whiffs with that check left, moves into the pocket. Rossi on the back foot here. Final minute and 40 seconds. Delozier connects with the right hand. Rossi with a reset.
That right hand has been having so much success for Delozier, but as we see it, every time Rossi gets in trouble, he closes the distance and he grips his opponents up, which is smart. It's not pretty, but it's efficient and effective.
Mike Delozier has only been able to escape this position a few times this fight. It is imperative that he finds his way off the fence.
Yeah, he must learn to pummel, dig his underhooks, however, because Rossi, he's winning the round. Even though Delozier's doing some great work, Rossi erases it all by closing the distance and just keeping his hands grasped and throwing the knees, throwing the strikes there from that grappling position.
And like we talked about, from a guy who's only 1-0 to have the wherewithal to go back to the grappling when necessary and win those minutes of fights instead of moments, that's pretty high level stuff.
That's a winner's mindset. You know, Rossi definitely has that mindset. He took some damage, he got cut, he's bleeding. Like some of the worst things that can happen to you has happened to Rossi. However, he has been undeterred in his approach towards his fight.
Here's Delozier with a big pummel under, but can he break the grip? That is locked in from Anthony Rossi.
So far, Rossi doing a great job maintaining head control, maintaining the body lock, just throwing knees. And even though those knees may not look like they're much, one, they're scoring points. Two, he definitely fills those.
And look at the welt on the big Hayes. I mean, that leg is marked up from all of those strikes.
All of those knee strikes just chipping away.
Final 10 seconds. Can the big Hayes stop Anthony Rossi? Big connection. Rossi once again in on the hips and closes out with a true high IQ game plan.
Very much so. If I'm a judge so far, I have to lean more towards Rossi as close as this fight could be. But I mean, to say that, on the other hand, Delozier, if you think about the work that he put in, the fight probably shouldn't have been that close. But he changes one or two fundamental things.
What an impressive second outing for Anthony Rossi. Dealt with some serious adversity, a lot of heavy strikes from the big Hayes, and he wore the majority of them well. David Evans, take it to a highlight from round number 3.
Here we have it, Rossi just doing his work right here in that clinch position. Chopping at the knees, chopping at the legs. That was the low blow, which I questioned initially, Dolores. I'm sorry, but I mean, it was definitely there. But he came back, you know, threw his hands, got his strikes, landed that sneaky left hook, and almost rocked Rossi again. However, Rossi just did what he did, kept coming forward, got to his clinch position, got his opponent against the cage, and he's scoring points every time. He's not just sitting there, where his opponent, on the other hand, was a little bit too comfortable with his back against the cage.
Certainly questionable about the choices of Mike Delozier, but we take it inside to Shane Graham to find out the winner in our second bout of the night at APFC 6. Anthony Rossi seemingly confident about the result here tonight. Can't see where oh, there he is. Delozier, hands on the hips. Doesn't seem as confident, David.
You know, I think I heard a little back and forth between the two, and Delozier thinks his opponent didn't earn the win, actually. So I think it's, you know, that's where your coaches and the people around you have to step in. You know, even though he may be feeling good about this performance, and if you're a coach, you got to say, hey, we did this good, but this is what affected us the most. And if he makes adjustments, I think he has a bright future.
You can't question the enthusiasm, though, of the big Hayes. I mean, he's been smiling first round, second round, third round, and now afterwards. We take it to Shane Graham to find out the decision here at heavyweight.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 3 hard-fought rounds of action, we go to the judges' scorecards for a decision. Our first judge scores this contest 29-28, Delozier. Our second judge scores it 29-28, Rossi. And our third judge scores it 30-27 for your winner by split decision, Anthony Rossi.
Rossi remains undefeated here at APFC in a grueling 3-round affair against the highly experienced Mike Big Hayes Delozier. David Evans felt like he just did everything he needed to do. Let's take it to a quick recap of those 3 rounds. Walk me through it, David.
Speaking of everything he needed to do, it wasn't pretty, but it was effective, and he got the win. He went through some adversity, stuck to his game plan, which was the wrestling there, snatches the leg up. We've seen that a couple times to stay committed to his shot. However, his opponent was no give, you know, he was no gimme. Every time he shot, his opponent made him work for it. However, Rossi weathered the storm, took some big shots, kept his hands up, and whenever he got the opportunity to close the distance, even after getting rocked, we see him launch in, get the body lock, get the double leg, gets in that back take position, and that was the name of the fight there.
Excellent job by Rossi. We take it to a tail of the tape of our next fight of the night here at APFC 6. We're heading down to the lightweight division between Esteban Gomez and Joe Slatke. Esteban Gomez seeking vengeance for his failed debut. Joe Slatke on the other side of the coin, debuting himself. 3 years separate these men, with Gomez being the elder. No height advantages, 6 feet even on both sides. Gomez did weigh in at 158. Joe Slatke at 153, David Evans.
Man, I'm excited to see this. You got one debut with something to prove, then you got an 0-1 with something to prove. Something's got to give here. Only one guy can win.
We take it inside to Shane Graham to bring in these next 2 combatants at APFC 6.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for our next bout of the evening. Please welcome to the cage our first fighter, coming to us by way of the blue corner, Joe Slatke.
Joe Slatke with one of the more interesting fighter one-on-ones I would say we had. He wants to bring the manliness back into the social climate. Said that people don't have enough testosterone these days. He's here to inject some more, David.
You know, I mean, he definitely is choosing the right sport to do so, I guess. You know, I don't want to speak to any generational what-ifs or whatnot, but, hey, he got to come out there and prove it if that's what he says.
Certainly talking the talk. We'll see how he walks it. Born and bred in Front Royal, Virginia. In his corner tonight, Steve Terrell and Tevin Cruz. The nickname, the Soul Taker, is certainly setting high expectations for me.
I mean, what more manly is, you know, going into a cage in an arena full of people with a man trying to take your head off? I mean, I don't think it gets any more manly than that, right?
We talked about hairstyles earlier. He's got that patented mullet that a lot of guys have. Seems very calm and confident here in this walkout. Again, first time, and I wouldn't be able to tell that it was his debut yesterday when we were talking to him.
You know, I think I got to give him props on the fade. His fade's looking good, too. No beard. You know, I think maybe if he had a beard, that'll speak to the manliness that he's trying to bring to the cage. You know, we got to tell him. I'll have a conversation with him after his fight. Be like, hey, maybe a beard.
Maybe a beard.
Maybe a beard.
That'll
That's
be
a great example.
The next evolution of Joe Slatke. He's having a lot of fun with the camera here.
Seems very relaxed, man, very stoic. I'm liking his approach so far.
The Soul Taker, Joe Slatke, representing Virginia here tonight in his debut performance. We'll see if he can back up all of the words that he's given during fight week.
And what better place to do it than the APFC?
And his opponent set to make his way to the cage, fighting out of the red corner, Esteban Gomez.
Esteban Gomez wanting to remind the masses that the debut does not define him. Was a tough fight in his first time out. Again, didn't get the win, but he said that he's not going to accept any other outcome here tonight than a W, David.
Very much so. He was interesting. I tried to ask him what was going to be his approach to victory here. He didn't want to give up anything. He had some super secret moves that he's going to go out here and just exploit his opponent's weakness, but I liked his mentality. He's like, hey, I'm starting off on the back foot. I'm not accepting anything less than a W. However he gets it, he's gonna take it.
Coached tonight by John Bertelli, Travis Long, and Belinda Hickman. Again, a really star-studded corner for Esteban Gomez. He's got all the verbal guidance and assistance he'll need cage side. And that's, again, some fighters like to take that approach. They're not going to tell us what their game plan is. They're not going to disclose any information, which on one hand I can respect, keep it close to the chest, surprise everybody. But at the same time, I'd love to cue them up and give some stuff about it.
It definitely makes our jobs a little bit harder, guys. So if you fighters are out there listening, we're not going to tell. Your secret's safe with us.
Here he is, Esteban Gomez, aiming to right the wrongs of the debut. We set inside to Shane Graham to get these lightweights underway.
Ladies and gentlemen, this next fight is three-minute rounds in the APFC lightweight division. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, a mixed martial arts artist who is tonight making his mixed martial arts debut. He stands 6 feet tall and weighed in at 153.6 pounds. Fighting out of Front Royal, Virginia, here is Joe, the Soul Taker, Slatke. His opponent standing across the cage. Fighting out of the red corner, this man is also making his mixed martial arts debut this evening, and he stands 6 feet tall. He weighed in at 158.2 pounds and fights out of Fairfax, Virginia. Here is Esteban Gomez! And when the action begins, our referee in charge is Jason King.
Gotta mention the difference in demeanors here, David Evans. Joe Slatke very fired up. Esteban Gomez unbothered.
It's like fire and ice in the cage right now. Who's gonna win?
I would say historically fire's been pretty successful in melting ice, but Esteban Gomez answers the assignment of the debutante, Joe Slatke.
Slatke coming out, pressuring forward, sticking that jab out there, not really looking to, land, but just to keep it in front of his opponent's face.
A mountain of movement is Joe Slatke, feinting and changing different levels. Gomez just making the reads right now, David.
Yeah, I kind of like Gomez's approach, though. He's very laid back and reserved, but you can see him taking and collecting that mental data.
Slatke tries to go downstairs, misses. Esteban Gomez stance switching right now in southpaw. Joe Slatke in the orthodox stance.
Gomez seems to be very poised to strike and maybe counter Slatke on the outside.
Seems like he's content to let Joe Slatke tire himself out. All of this movement, all these whiffing strikes is eventually going to wear on the gas tank.
That too, and that speaks to, his 0-1 is experience, still nonetheless, and that speaks to his experience in the fight game.
Joe Slatke doing a great job of keeping that guard up and keeping it tight, we'll say that.
Very sporadic movement by Slatke, as you said earlier.
Feels like the jitters of the debut are kind of present in Slatke's performance so far through 90 seconds.
Very much so.
Oh! As we mentioned, it down goes Slatke.
Quick slip right there. Motion and movement is good, but there has to be a method to it. You have to know where you're going as you're moving. And when you don't, something like that happens. And now he's on his back. Let's see how comfortable he is working off the back position.
Esteban Gomez really digging into the guard here, trying to slice through it. A little bit of ground and pound. Exits. Joe Slatke.
Gomez seemed to be very technical there, in the top position. We saw him trying to cut the knee across and he slided across, not rushing any position, not necessarily putting himself in a bad position, and just taking what's given to him.
Big connection right there. Esteban Gomez rushes in, couple knees on Slatke. Joe Slatke doesn't seem to like it, David.
Beautiful switch knees there by Gomez. Switch knee, went back to the opposite side knee, good Muay Thai plum. However, Slatke sneaking in the guillotine, it's tight.
Joe Slatke snatched it when Esteban Gomez brought him upstairs. Gomez with the right defense, I would say, David.
So far, yes, he needs to get his hip up and actually go deeper into the guillotine. I know people want to snatch back and try to posture up. However, that typically makes the choke harder. If he keeps his hips up, dig his shoulder into Slatke's chin, and try to get out to the parallel side there, Slatke, he'd be in a better position. But Slatke is committed to that guillotine.
Slatke having to really readjust. You can see him utilizing the hips now, but Esteban Gomez has passed the test so far. 10 seconds remains. Can Slatke finish this choke right here, right now? No, he can't.
Gomez doing a good job, just staying patient in danger. He was in the fire there for a second, but he did everything he was supposed to do. Got his hips up, got his shoulder into Slatke's throat, and was patient, and that's how he got out of that position.
An excellent first round. Slatke, constant movement from him. Esteban Gomez, though, with, I would say, just the more success, right? Defensively more aware, and offensively was just a bit more in control. Let's take some of the highlights from round number 1, David Evans.
Here we have it. Slatke came out just moving erratically through that kick with no intention to land, or there was no target, it seemed, and he slipped, and that put him in a bad position on his back. However, Gomez then hit the pedal to the metal, switch knee, opposite knee, Muay Thai plum, got right to the shot there, which I thought was a beautiful transition. However, in the midst of that transition, Slatke threw on the guillotine and then just committed to that guillotine for the later half of the round there. And that's what we saw. Gomez looked like he was in trouble for a second, however, did all of the right things, got out of the fire, and now he's going into the second round. That's a hard round to kind of judge for me. I got to give it to Gomez, but Slatke, I'm impressed by his ability to throw in and snatch that guillotine at a moment's notice.
Do you think that his arms are affected at all by really trying to muscle his way through that guillotine?
Very much so, I do, but only time is going to tell, right, Ben?
Fair enough. Esteban Gomez stance switching in the early moments of round number 2. Joe Slatke covering up. Big kick right there from Gomez, misses. Slatke seems to have slowed down just a notch from round number 1.
Very much so. Gomez still, seems comfortable staying. Oh, wow. Big 1-2 there by Slatke. Maybe caused Gomez just kind of being a little too relaxed there with that 1-2 down the middle. Beautiful transition. Now Gomez on top. Back in Slatke's guard.
Slatke clearly comfortable on the ground. Closing the guard here and just isolating that right arm. Gomez does sneak it out for now.
Gomez has really great coaching. And I can tell just by the little things that he's doing in each of these positions. He's in the guard, was driving his head into his opponent's jaw line. His hand position's perfect. Now he's in prime position to just posture up and land some strikes.
Wow. Again, not all amateur rule sets created equally. Some elbows right there from Gomez. Big left connects right there from Gomez. Slatke busted open, bit of blood now coming down. He is getting a tough debut in Esteban Gomez.
Very much so, man. And I mean, not only tough, but Gomez seems to be a class ahead of Slatke technically. So it's not only is his opponent intense, but they're always a step ahead of you. That can be frustrating to deal with.
A bit of Muay Thai right there from Gomez with the plum. Now just muscles and throws Slatke to the floor. The Soul Taker seems potentially out of options. 1:20 left in round 2.
Beautiful elbows and ground and pound by Gomez. Did a great job immediately during the transition, slid his knee across, and that's how he got to that top mount position.
Joe Slatke is in a world of trouble against Esteban Gomez. 60 seconds remain. He's moving. He's trying to defend and get out of this, but Gomez is really riding with him.
Very much so, just being very sharp technically, keeping the hooks in on his back there and just landing the strikes whenever he sees them, not forcing anything. I mean, Gomez seems to be very fluid on the top position.
There is no wasted movement from Esteban Gomez. He is just bloodying up the Soul Taker, trying to put the finishing movements on a potential submission, David.
Man, Gomez is painting the canvas red with Slatke's blood, man. Just ground and pound, looking for positions. However, he slipped his hips off just a little bit, and that allowed Slatke to get on top now. Let's see if Slatke's going to get some payback here.
Final 15 seconds. Each guy reversing and transitioning around. Looks like Esteban Gomez is going to end round 2 on top, delivering some devastating elbows, David Evans.
Man, I like that, especially, from an amateur, you don't really get to see that. Amateurs don't typically even think to throw elbows in that position. But the way that Gomez is approaching them, the way that he's throwing them, he's doing a great job finding the spots to strike. I'm impressed.
We talked about demeanor changing from the beginning of the fight to now. Joe Slatke's appearance changed indefinitely.
Let's see how the Soul Taker responds to some blood here. Maybe that's going to amp him up a little bit.
Well, let's see how that blood happened. David Evans, take me through these highlights of round number 2.
Here we have Slatke. He landed that 1-2, which surprised everybody. However, Gomez made the adjustments, got the body lock, got the trip, and when he's able to get on top and go to work, which is pretty much the story of the round for the most part, did some very veteran maneuvers, sliding the knees across, getting himself in position before he landed strikes, which afforded him the time to just really burn out the clock and land strikes at will. I believe there was a portion where Slatke did get a reversal where Gomez tried to go for that arm lock transition like a modified arm bar. However, Slatke wasn't on top too long. Gomez got back on top, and I'm going to give that round to Gomez.
Round number 3 between Joe the Soul Taker Slatke and Esteban Gomez. By all accounts, Slatke needs a finish.
Very much so, man. I like how Gomez has been sneaking that snap front kick up the middle there for Slatke as he comes in.
Joe Slatke really on this body lock. Gomez pummeling into it. This is, I mean, a lot of damage for an amateur debut for Joe Slatke to take.
Very much so. I mean, this is, if anything, a great learning experience for him. I mean, you're only better after going through a fighting experience like this. On a stage like this, nonetheless.
Beautiful takedown by Joe Slatke. Gomez trying to isolate and work on that right arm.
Beautiful takedown. He's just stayed connected to it. I mean, at first, I wasn't sure Slatke was going to be able to transition to the double leg. However, just staying consistent and being stubborn there allowed him to get the finish. Now he's in a good position to, you know, get some work in on top and perhaps get some payback and, you know, maybe we see more blood here, man.
A roll reversal. Esteban Gomez trying to get out of this, but Slatke transitions to the back. Oh, Joe Slatke once again trying to find a potential choke that might be tight.
Slatke sneakily sneaking in that rear naked choke. I didn't even see it. Like, it was right in the middle of the transition, and it's tight.
Esteban Gomez might be moments away from tapping out in round 3.
Gomez needs to get his back to the canvas here. He's doing a great job attacking the top hand. That's gonna not really allow his opponent to sink in the choke like he needs to. However, he needs to switch his hips, hip heights, and get his back to the canvas. You don't want to do that typically. It's bad to be on bottom, but it's much better than someone having your back.
Gomez avoids the rear naked choke, but Slatke transitions to mount and is just going to work. But a big reversal from Gomez.
That was a beautiful sweep. He trapped the arm there by Gomez, and that just speaks to the technical deficiencies or difference between these two fighters. Gomez, every time he's gotten in a bad position, was able to recover technically, where Slatke is going off of fire and just ferocity in this fight.
Soul crushing for the Soul Taker, potentially, as Joe Slatke finds himself on his back with 40 seconds to go. Now trying to throw up some more submissions, but Gomez defends deftly, David.
Gomez doing a great job just transitioning through these scrambles, finding his spots. Snuck the boot there in on the right-hand side of Slatke. That's going to probably keep him attached to his opponent for the next 30 seconds. And it's just back to what he's been doing, right? He gets on the back and just picks his spots and lands punches.
Joe Slatke, though, finds a reversal, but Gomez rolls with it. You can't question the heart of Joe Slatke. I mean, he came in here really trying to prove a lot. Again, he talked a lot during fight week, and, you know, by all accounts, oh, here he is, though, in a rear naked choke. That looks like it could be deep. Can Slatke survive?
That looks tight. Is he out? Oh, it looked like he may have been. I mean, I saw his arms go limp. Maybe it was just from pure defeat on the behalf of Slatke there, but, I mean, that was a great showing from both guys.
Joe Slatke and Esteban Gomez go the full 3 3-minute rounds. A lot of toughness displayed by Joe Slatke, but Esteban Gomez, highly technical, and again, he came in here with a lot to prove coming off of that debut, and he did it.
Very much so. I think Gomez went into this fight with the mentality that I'm the teacher. You know, he went out there and was very technical. We saw some really good things from him. Even in bad spots here, we see Slatke got that double leg. As I said earlier, just stay committed to it. It wasn't the most technical sound takedown. However, just pure grit allowed him to get in that position. Almost got the finish here. I mean, we were both on the edge of our seats there for a second as he slipped in that rear naked choke, and no one seemed to see it coming. For a second, we thought Gomez was out of there, but however, he definitely reversed the rolls, got the rear naked choke on his own, and that's how he ended that round. I have to give that round to Gomez. I think I got to give the fight to Gomez. I mean, good showing there by Slatke. I think he came out, he proved his point, and a part of being a man is also being able to accept defeat. So if the judges don't go in his way, you know, I expect him to model that here as he leaves the cage.
Certainly a win or learn moment for Joe Slatke. He's going to come back better than ever, but by all accounts, I imagine that Esteban Gomez will be welcomed to the winner's column for the very first time. We take it to Shane Graham to find out the official decision.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 3 hard-fought rounds, we go to the judges' scorecards for a decision. Our judges scored this contest 30-27, 29-28, and 30-27, all for your winner by unanimous decision, Esteban Gomez.
Esteban Gomez showed all of the tricks of the trade in this unanimous decision victory over Joe Slatke, a tough customer, but Gomez just a cut above tonight. David Evans, we take it to a full fight highlight. Walk me through it.
A cut above for sure was Gomez. He came out calm, cool, collected. His opponent was very sporadic, and that's oftentimes hard to deal with. However, he made every adjustment that he needed to do. He stuck to his technique. You can tell he has great coaching and great experience. He got in some bad spots here with Slatke sneaking in that guillotine, man. There was a few seconds where we thought that could have been over with. Slatke was coming forward. However, Gomez did the right thing, gripped his opponent up, got him down, got on top, and started raining elbows and strikes from the top position. Eventually cut his opponent open. You know, we spoke to the technique here by Gomez, knee slide across, got the position before he went down and went to work and started landing strikes on Joe Slatke. There were a few times where Slatke was able to get some sneaky reversals. We thought this could have been over in like 1 or 2. It was so topsy-turvy, it was hard to call, but Gomez leaves here the winner tonight.
Excellent job by Esteban Gomez. We take it to the tail of the tape for our next fight here at APFC 6. It's an exhibition one between Brock Saden and Josh Miller, each guy debuting, each guy 20 years young, and only an inch separates them, with Saden being the slightly taller individual. Saden weighed in at 170.6 pounds, while Josh Miller weighed in at 171. This welterweight bout gets underway. We take it to Shane Graham to bring the gladiators in.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for our next fight of the evening. Please welcome to the cage our first fighter, coming to us by way of the blue corner, Josh Miller.
There's a lot of questions surrounding these two fighters, but one thing that you certainly can't question is the power of Josh Hits Hard Miller. 6'1", representing Front Royal, Virginia, coached tonight by Steve Terrell, Tevin Cruz, and Joseph Miller. One of the guys who, again, really fun and interesting to talk to, David Miller. David Evans, what were your thoughts on Josh Miller?
Man, Josh Miller, I really liked his personality. He was confident that he was going to go out there and do everything he needs to do. Seems to be a consummate athlete as well too, so I'm excited to see what exactly he's going to bring to the table.
I gotta get your thoughts on this nickname that the debutant Josh Miller has, Hits Hard.
I'm sorry, the nickname. I'm drawing a blank on what the nickname was here for a second.
Josh Hits Hard Miller.
Hits hard Miller. I mean, that's something you definitely have to live up to if you're going to put that out there. You definitely can't go out there just looking a pot shot. I mean, look for him to go out there and probably try to get an exciting finish here in the first round.
A physical specimen from Front Royal, Virginia. Here is Josh Miller making the mixed martial arts debut.
And his opponent set to make his way to the cage and fighting out of the red corner, Brock Saden.
Unbelievably fired up all fight week. It's Brock the Rock Saden from Tyree Island, Georgia. Again, 6 feet 2 inches tall, 170.6 pounds. At 20 years young, it's an incredible feat that this individual is taking here tonight.
Very much so, man. Coming out here on the big stage such as APFC, as the tattoo says, he's invincible. Let's see if he lives up to that. There's a lot at stake going into this fight. One hits hard, one is invincible. It's like the immovable force meets the immovable object, or however that goes. I think they're going to meet each other square in the middle of the cage, and somebody has to go down in this one.
That really does set the bar high, in my opinion. If you're tattooing the words invincible on yourself, boy, you better have an excellent debut, David Evans.
Yeah, and I remember talking talking to him yesterday briefly after the weigh-ins, man. He seems to think that he's just going to go out there and have his will with his opponent, and he was very confident that he was going to go out there and get a W. So,
will, toughness, durability, maybe some invincibility in the mixed martial arts debut of Brock Saden. We take it inside to Shane Graham to get these two welterweights into action.
Ladies and gentlemen, this next fight is three-minute rounds, a special exhibition bout in the APFC welterweight division. This fight is presented to us by Third Coast T-shirts. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner. This man is a mixed martial artist making his mixed martial arts debut tonight. He stands 6 feet, 1 inch tall, and weighing in at 171 pounds and fighting out of Front Royal, Virginia. Here is Josh It's Hard Miller. And his opponent standing across the cage, fighting into the red corner, a mixed martial artist also making his mixed martial arts debut this evening. He stands 6 feet, 2 inches tall and weighed in at 170.6 pounds. Fighting out of Tybee Island, Georgia, here is Brock Saden. And when the action begins, our referee in charge is Matthew Goodhart.
Debuts on both sides, Josh Hits Hard Miller and Brock Saden. We'll say, I believe that invincible tattoo is from the Amazon TV series and the comic book. At least that seems to be the font and coloring, but who knows? We'll talk to him about it afterwards.
You know, I was never much of a comic book guy myself, so I'm gonna take you on that one.
David Evans, I don't think you can read.
You know what? I'm literate enough. Enough. I can read APFC across the canvas. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters indeed. Josh Miller really getting backed up here. Brock Saden with a thunderous kick to the body, but Miller connects with the left hand.
Beautiful right kick there by Brock Saden. You know, he didn't really force it, just kind of slid it in there right under his opponent's guard. He seems to be very comfortable keeping his range and maintaining his range and throwing those strikes.
Certainly seemingly highly technical through 30 seconds. The ring gentlemanship, though, I mean, more following than cutting, potentially.
Very much so. He seems to have a very traditional, like, Muay Thai style, so to speak, and, I mean, just very fluid in the way he throws those kicks and snaps that jab out there.
Another excellent high kick, Josh Miller.
And I really think he's just trying to time his opponent, because even though the kicks are snapping, he's not throwing them out there with a ton of force. Maybe trying to find his spot.
Josh Miller eats a couple shots on the way back up. Brock Saden with a clinical destruction here in the first round. Excellent connections, but Josh Hits Hard Miller now coming forward.
Yeah, it just seems to be overwhelming Miller's computer so far, just with the amount of strikes he's throwing them and at the velocity that he's throwing them. And Miller seems to be a little taken aback, however, making an adjustment and just throwing that big hand out there trying to get that knockout.
Sometimes you need to just bite the mouthpiece, as they would say, and get into the trenches.
Very much so.
90 seconds remain in round number 1. Will say, in terms of living up to the nickname, excellent connection by Saden. But every time Josh Miller connects, you can see that there is some slight bruising on Brock Saden. Saden needs a left hook.
Very much so, committed to that left hand. However, Saden answers back with a sneaky left hook.
Josh Miller absolutely wobbled here in round number 1. 60 seconds remain. These guys have no intention of going the distance.
The thing about hitting hard, you're almost never the only one that hits hard. Now, can you take it? And Miller seems to be able to take the punch, you know, got rocked there, but still coming forward.
Not loving the body language of Josh Miller here. Final 50 seconds. Brock Saden turning up the volume.
Saden doing a great job, just feinting the hips, feinting the hands, doing everything, and every time he lands, snapping every strike.
Josh Miller moving really labored here. Excellent head kick by Brock Saden.
Beautiful head kick there. Miller making the adjustment and just going in, getting that takedown. Let's see how Saden is off of his back.
A lot of work going into the knee right here from Brock Saden. What's the danger level, David?
I mean, right now, Saden, he did everything that he needed to do. You know, got his feet on the hips, created space, and was able to get back to his feet, snapping the kick right back to the head of Miller.
How is Josh Miller still standing? Final 10 seconds in round number 1. Brock Saden is piecing him up, David.
Very much so, and just constantly coming forward more than anything. A lot of times, that'll take it out of you. You get hit, you defend, and when you see your opponent is still in front of your face, like that'll just drain the will out of an opponent.
What a striking performance from Brock Saden here in round number 1. David Evans, take me through these highlights.
I can do that because we for sure had a lot of them. Here we had Saden, beautiful, sneaky inside kick that he threw there, taking his opponent off of his feet, then coming back, staying in his face, throwing the teep out there, throwing the strikes out there. Man, that was beautiful. That was like something you see in a movie, the way he threw that kick.
And the follow-up shots as Miller was getting back to the feet were really impactful. That's the knockdown, picture perfect.
Very much so, staying composed and staying in the position to strike even after he lands big strikes. That shows me that he has a very, very educated striking game.
If I'm Josh Miller, I got that takedown in round 1, I'd probably start shooting a bit earlier in round number 2.
Very much so. I'd throw that big left hand and then I'd follow it up with a shot every time.
Josh hits hard. Miller and Brock Saden find themselves in round number 2. Miller has a little bit of catching up to do, David.
Very much so. I mean, we know he has the capacity to do damage with his power. However, he's been so one-dimensional in his approach, so he needs to switch it up and find another way to get to his opponent.
If you send a bomb into the ocean, it really doesn't do damage. It's all about placement and timing, like you said. Excellent
Beautiful
left right
hand.
there.
But he's telegraphing it at this point. I mean, he lands it, then he throws it and throws it and throws it again. We need to see more layers to his striking game if he's going to be successful with a seasoned striker such as Brock Saden.
Brock Saden just nonstop with all of the appendages, moving from the head to the body to the legs at will.
Beautiful hip feints, misdirection, throwing the hands out there. You just almost don't know what angle he's going to strike from, Brock Saden.
Gotta think the base of Josh Miller's hurting, but Air Saden gets Brock to the ground.
Beautiful change levels double leg there by Miller. Now he's on top in a position to go to work and do some damage of his own.
Josh Miller really trying to lock up Brock Saden here. Saden going on a Kimura trap, but once again brought to the canvas.
Big slam there by Miller, man. I'm getting some shades of like a Rampage Jackson here from Miller. Just every time he gets in on his opponent, takes him off his feet. However, Saden, beautiful sweep there with the Kimura. And now Saden's on top.
90 seconds remain in round number 2. Here comes some Brock Saden elbows. Josh Miller trying to lock up a sub, but nothing going.
Saden throwing those elbows with the most ill intent I've seen, man.
Hits hard. Miller. Back is against the wall. Brock Saden again goes to the legs. Got to think about where the base of Josh Miller is right now.
Man, it's just mentally right now he's taking everything, and the thing is his opponent can throw everything. I mean, elbows, kicks, hands, knees. What haven't we seen from Brock Saden?
Josh Miller, like a flower left out in the sun too long, is starting to wilt, David.
Very much so. I mean, he's taking a lot of damage from every direction from Brock Saden. And, I mean, another thing, we see Miller made the adjustment. He said, hey, I'm going to go to the takedown, which he is right now. But when you have someone like Saden, who's not only a seasoned striker, but is good off his back, what is it to take him down?
Knees from Saden. Josh Miller not liking it. Big connection on the separation. 30 seconds remain in round number 2.
Miller definitely wears his emotion on his sleeves, man. Every time he lands or strikes and take one, you can tell if he's on the good end or the bad end of it.
It's like a young Robbie Lawler.
Very much so.
Again, left misses right there for Miller.
He's got to set up that right hand.
Brock Saden with an excellent connection. Final 10 seconds. Miller might be out on the feet.
And Saden just marching forward, strike for strike. Beautiful
These guys
right hand.
swinging right to the end of round number 2. Brock the Saden almost. I mean, this guy loves violence.
Man, he's definitely been in there a time or two. Even if it's not, you know, organized, like he's been in there with some experienced strikers. I can tell just by the way he carries himself, the demeanor that he has, and the intelligence and layers that he has with the striking.
If you're Josh Miller, you're coming into round number 3. Let's take some highlights first real quick, David Evans.
Here we have Miller making the adjustment, getting right to the double leg and the takedown, which I thought this was going to be a better round for him because of it. However, Saden is like, hey, you want to take it to the mat? I'm good there. I can get up at least. That's all he needs to do with the level of striking that he has. Miller stayed attached to him, slammed him back down. However, Saden made his adjustment, got to the Kimura, got to the sweep, got on top, and started landing elbows from hell here on top.
Absolutely vicious. There's that head kick.
The beautiful head kick, which he started off timing in the first round, and we started to see him landing it more and more as the fight goes on.
Josh hits hard. Miller also durable as you could possibly be. Brock Sadin on the other side of the coin has mixed it up beautifully. These guys don't really seem like they're wearing the cardio or stamina. I mean, it feels like they could go another 5 rounds.
Very much so, man. Just true grit by both of these guys.
Third and final round between Sadin and Miller. Josh hits hard. Miller certainly needs a finish.
Sadin staying comfortable in the middle there. I mean, at this point, which how much he's dominated, it's Miller's turn to come to him, and I think he knows that at this point.
Time to make it dirty for hits hard Miller. You could see differentiating and mixing the takedown attempts to get close and wing those hooks. Smart adjustment.
Very much so. I mean, but Sadin doing a great job on his end, just going outside with the kick, going inside with the kick, going upstairs, going downstairs, just taking it everywhere with his striking.
An economical approach from Brock Sadin. Those leg kicks cannot feel good.
I expect to see him to throw more of those leg kicks, but then come up top with that back, that rear head kick, which he landed a time or two here in this fight.
Brock Sadin evading these power shots here. His expression has not changed over the course of these 3 rounds. He is just dialed in right now.
Very much so. He's taking a lot of damage, but always looking to return and land some damage of his own.
Josh Miller eats another head kick right there. Tries to return his own. There's a left that connects.
Miller marching forward, just trying to close the distance as to not take any more strikes here from Sadin.
Miller is just unsuccessful at all ranges. Brock Sadin making him pay anywhere inside the octagon.
Very much so, man. I'm liking everything that I'm seeing from Sadin, man. He seems to be a very seasoned striker. His head kicks remind me of something you would see from like a Wonder Boy Thompson. Just the way he throws it is very fluid, and it takes very little effort with maximum damage.
If you're Brock Sadin, you're probably thinking to yourself, how do I get this guy out of here?
I mean, at this point, I'm thinking to myself, you know, how do you get someone like Sadin out of here? I mean, very young in his career, but seems to be very experienced. I just think he's a little too much to handle for Miller right now.
100%. Final 60 seconds remains. Josh Miller in on the takedown. Some Hail Mary shots from him right here. Brock Sadin defends, knees to the head. Absolutely brutal.
Sadin fighting from anywhere and everywhere, throwing the knees to the head off of the clinch from the transition and defending the shots, feinting. What haven't we seen from Sadin? I mean, if he gets a takedown at some point in this fight, you can say he's had the complete fight. Like, he's done everything.
Would be the picture. Perfect debut. Massive connection from Sadin. Josh Miller still standing.
Miller not backing down an inch, however.
He is busted open. That is a lot of blood coming from the eyebrow of Josh. Hits hard Miller, and he's still firing back. Final
and
10
smiling in his opponent's face, man. That's nothing but heart there on the behalf of Miller.
What a display of striking success from Brock Sadin. You can see he lifts the arms there. Josh hits hard Miller, earns the respect of everybody at the Greater Richmond Convention Center. What a showing by these two debutants. I can't wait to see them back. Brock showing he's invincible. I mean, no holes in the game right there.
I mean, dude, that was one of the most comprehensive amateur fights that I've ever seen on behalf of Sadin. His striking prowess, his ability to get off of his back. He has the ability to truly fight anywhere and everywhere, and that's what you want to see in a young up-and-coming fighter.
Well, let's take a look at some of these highlights from their unbelievable affair. This final round, David Evans, take us through it.
Beautiful step-in elbow there by Sadin. I mean, we see him throw elbows from anywhere and everywhere, on top, on his feet. That was a beautiful, sneaky elbow over the top of the guard there by Miller.
Unblemished is Brock Sadin here in the APFC octagon. He was a force to be reckoned with, and Josh Miller stepped up to the plate, but simply was not enough. Man, that is some brutal damage.
Wow. I'm truly impressed, man. I saw some things that I liked from both fighters, but Sadin really seemed to separate himself here tonight.
We take it to Shane Graham to find out the winner.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a round of applause for these two warriors in this exhibition, APFC Welterweight Bout.
Great job by both gentlemen. Again, rules befitting the exhibition.
Sorry for my language, Paul.
No winner is announced. Brock apologizes for the language in the octagon. Let's take it to the tail of the tape for our next fight of the evening. At lightweight between Blake Correa and Walter Diggs Jr. Debutants on both sides, but 7 years separates them, with Blake being the younger gentleman, but he will have a 5-inch height advantage. Blake Correa weighed in at 155.2. Walter Diggs Jr. weighed in at 153 pounds. We send it inside to Shane Graham to bring our next two fighters into the cage after a small cleanup from the crew. David Evans once again talked about that last fight, Josh Miller, in terms of things he could change moving forward. What would be the suggestion?
He just definitely has to add more layers to his game, Ben.
More layers indeed. We take it to Shane Graham.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our next fight of the evening. Please welcome to the cage, fighting out of the blue corner, Walter Diggs Jr.
Listen to the crowd get loud for Walter Diggs Jr. Finally making the pro debut, representing Middlesex, Virginia. Standing at 5 feet 6 inches tall, competing at lightweight, David Evans, that is certainly impressive.
Very much so, and I expect to see him be more explosive. I mean, you look at his body, you look at his build. He's clearly an athletic guy. I liked what I heard from him. He seems to be like a family man and very motivated by his family. Has a kid on the way, if I remember correctly. So I expect him to carry that fire and that motivation into the cage. You know, he may be on the smaller side, but, you know, hey, big things come in small packages.
I believe that might be his pregnant significant other right there with the sign that says, "That's my baby daddy."
That's my baby daddy, Diggs Nation.
I love it. Anytime you get some serious support for a hometown hero, it really just elevates the energy, David.
Very much so, man. I mean, we felt it ourselves the second he walked out. I mean, this place popped.
Walter Diggs Jr., decent amateur career here. He's making the pro debut. When you think about the pro debut, David, what are some of the things you want to keep in mind?
I mean, for me, I've been there. You know, I've been in the cage. I've fought as an amateur for a long time and then made that transition to pro. For me, I mean, on my pro debut, my goal was to get in there and get out and get the W. I mean, you definitely don't want to start off your pro career, you know, on an 0-1 or, you know, on a loss. So go out there, be as clean as you can, and get the win by any means necessary.
And that's one thing that Walter assured us is a win is all you're going to see here tonight from the small-statured lightweight. In the corner, Rob Shermer, Alex Heumann, and Harvey Gross. For the first time as a professional, it's Walter Diggs Jr.
And his opponent set to make his way to the cage, fighting out of the red corner, Blake Correa.
The youngster, Blake Correa, getting a Warriors welcome as well. Richmond, Virginia representative, 5 feet 11 inches tall. In his corner, he's got Luke Hunsaker, Rick McCoy, and Dustin Stanley. Again, all those MMA Institute guys really just seemed well-rounded all fight week. I mean, disciplined and very well prepared, David Evans.
Very much so, and have a wealth of support, man, as the energy in this room just kind of picked up with this fight, man.
This might be the one that sets the rest of the evening in motion. Pro debuts on both sides. We'll see who can come out on top. 7 years separate these two gentlemen. That's kind of a lot of time. David, 7 years, 29, 22. Thoughts on the age difference?
You know, in fighting is kind of weird. I mean, being older and fighting and more mature can kind of work to your advantage, you know, because fighting is one of those sports. It's not like a basketball or a baseball where you can be young and just be tall, or be young and just be strong and be successful. There's something to having old man's strength when it comes to grappling.
That old man strength, certainly something Walter Diggs Jr. embodies. Blake Correa, a professional, an amateur, excuse me, debuts on both sides.
Mind you guys, I'm 29, not saying that Walter is old. We are the same age, thank you very much.
Let's take it to Shane Graham to get these amateur debutants in.
Ladies and gentlemen, this next fight is three 3-minute rounds in the APFC lightweight division. This fight is brought to us by Richmond Spine and Rehab. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner. This man is a mixed martial artist tonight, making his mixed martial arts debut. He stands 5 feet, 6 inches tall, and weighed in at 153 pounds. Fighting out of Middlesex, Virginia, here is Walter Diggs Jr. And his opponent, fighting out of the red corner. This man is also making his mixed martial arts debut and stands at 5 feet, 11 inches tall. He weighed in at 155.2 pounds and fights out of Richmond, Virginia. Here is Blake Correa. And when the action begins, our referee in charge is Jason King.
Feelings of a main event here, David Evans, between these two amateur debutantes, Walter Diggs Jr. and Blake Correa, for the very first time mixed martial artists.
Let's see it, man. It got electrifying here tonight. Let's see if this fight lives up to it.
Blake Correa benefiting from a very big height advantage, but Diggs getting on the inside, negating the space.
Walter coming in right away, just trying to close that distance. We saw Correa sneak that jab over the right hand of Diggs, which I was kind of concerned about.
Big knee from Correa. Walter Diggs Jr. might be stunned.
You know, got stunned early, but he's doing all the right things. You grab your opponent, you put him against the cage, and you kind of slow the fight down. That's what Diggs seems to want to do here. However, with Correa, seems to have a little bit more experience and seems to be a little bit more comfortable. So let's see how this contrast works out.
Deep to the body from Correa. Diggs Jr. trying that outside kick. Car crash in the middle. Only a minute has transpired, David, and a lot's already happened.
So the thing is here with Diggs being a southpaw, he has to be aware and try to make sure his right foot stays on the outside of Correa. That's how he's getting caught. Correa's just catching him on the inside because he has that inside foot positioning.
Walter Diggs Jr. out on his feet. Blake Correa creates chaos in Richmond. First round TKO.
Correa did all the right things, man. Got the foot position, and that allowed him to stay in the pocket and land those strikes. However, Walter, you know, he's older, but maybe not as experienced and just wasn't aware of that.
Certainly couldn't get out of that spot. Blake Correa corralled him and finished him. What a performance from this 22-year-old.
Very much so. I mean, young, but definitely educated in his striking and his approach towards striking, and it just showed here in this fight.
Let's take it to the highlight of that first round finish. David Evans, walk me through it.
Well, here we have people clapping, and now Correa coming out throwing that kick. Snuck that jab right over the guard there of Diggs. Does a great job of just keeping his range. Diggs tried to tie him up. However, Correa's like, no, I'm going to get back to where I'm at. Has that outside foot position, which allows him to throw over the guard and come right down the middle there of Diggs' guard, and he just landed 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's the end of the fight.
Blake Correa finds the off switch early in round number 1. We send it inside to Shane Graham to make that first round finish official.
Ladies and gentlemen, referee Jason King has called a stop to the action at 1 minute, 8 seconds of the very first round, declaring the winner by TKO, Blake Correa!
Welcome to the world of mixed martial arts, Blake Correa. What a picture-perfect performance, David. Let's take it to some of these fight highlights. It was a quick one. David, walk me through it.
Very much picture perfect by Correa. I mean, we had Diggs coming out, had all the support. Correa had all the support. This fight lived up to the hype. Correa did a great job of just staying at his range and landing the strikes, overwhelming Diggs. Diggs tried his best to slow the fight down. However, Correa caught him coming in each and every time, landed punches and bunches through the knees, and was able to get the finish.
And that was it for Walter Diggs Jr. Blake Correa shuts him down in 1 round. Let's take it to the tail of the hold, but 20 for Christian Rodman, 1 inch in height. Rodman weighed in at 140.8 pounds. Carlinian weighed in at 138.6. We take it inside. Sorry, David Evans.
I was going to say, let me hear you pronounce that one more time, man. Because I for sure can't do it.
We'll take it to Shane Graham and hear his pronunciation to bring these next two combatants into the APFC octagon.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our next bout of the evening. Please welcome to the cage our first fighter coming to us by way of the blue corner, Christian Rodman.
We await Christian "The Rock" Rodman, making the amateur debut representing Front Royal, Virginia. 5 feet 6 inches tall, 20 years young. Tonight coached by Steve Terrell and Tevin Cruz. Again, those guys getting a lot of reps in the corner tonight. We know how good they are. Christian Rodman was a really calm dude, I would say, in fight week. You know, some guys are really jazzed up and excited to be here. He was just riding with the rhythm.
And perhaps tonight he's taking a page out of the old school boxing playbook. You know, you make your opponent wait. You know, just yeah, you're gonna wait on me. A little Floyd Mayweather approach here.
Maybe Christian Rodman's waiting for a specific stanza in the song or a beat drop. He was at the gloves table making sure it's all good. We didn't want any glove malfunction, David Evans.
No, we definitely got to be curious. He's just being safe. You know, he wants to make sure his hands are well taken care of for however long this fight lasts.
Safety first from The Rock, Christian Rodman, making, again, the amateur debut. Felt like he could find a finish here, said that he was better everywhere than his opponent, and with his grappling background, you know, it's hard to not believe him.
I mean, supreme confidence on his behalf. I'm excited to see how he goes out there and implements and how technical he is in his approach to fighting here.
Shorter statured, but Christian Rodman certainly packs a big punch. Again, when we think about the nicknames tonight, The Rock, a good one.
You know, I kind of want to raise my eyebrow a little bit and ask you what The Rock is cooking, but I'm not going to do that so we don't get sued here by the Dwayne Rock Johnson
I'm sure.
Corporation.
I bet Dwayne's got that trademarked. Here he is, The Rock, Christian Rodman.
And his opponent set to make his way to the cage and fighting out of the red corner, Ali Carlinian.
We're all struggling with the finish, man. Here he is, Ali Carlinian. Very reserved guy in our interview with him. Really didn't say much, one-word answers, couldn't get much out of him.
Yeah, I mean, very stoic. I mean, even if you see him just kind of walk out, he's just kind of an aura about him. I'm just going to call him Ali. I'm going to go with that bit,
Stick with
just
Ali.
to be safe. Maybe I'll try the Carlinian and Indian. I can't do it. I tried. I'm sorry, Ali. Don't get mad at me, brother. But I'm excited to see how his approach just in life transcends into the cage. He's so calm. He's so relaxed. I feel like he's going to get out there and go berserk for some reason.
And he's got a really good striking background in Finland. You know, we don't hear a lot about the Finnish combat sports culture, but one thing is for sure, looking at the physique, he is well prepared for this amateur debut here at APFC.
Very much looks to be in shape, looks to be physically dominant. You know, I mean, these fighters almost body-wise, they're like a contrast, but we know they're both super highly skilled.
The last thing that Ali gave us before the conclusion of our one-on-one with him is that, again, it's just about representing Finland. It's about putting this country on the combat sports map. That journey continues here tonight at APFC.
Carlinian.
It's, you know, it's a bummer because I asked him about an hour ago if he could pronounce it for me, and we sat there for about 3 minutes.
Oh, you tried.
I tried. I was like, Ollie, give it to me, and I just could not produce the inflection necessary for the Finnish last name.
Yeah, I mean, that comes with time. That's just, I think that's probably the hardest name we've had to deal with so far.
For the first time as an amateur mixed martial artist, it's Ali from Finland.
Just gave his opponent a nice little glove tap there. It's just everything about this dude is just so cool. He's just cool.
A guy that you want to grab a beverage with later. We send it inside to Shane Graham to get this one underway.
Ladies and gentlemen, this next fight is 3 3-minute rounds, a special catchweight bout at 140 pounds. Brought to us by Rio Brazil Steakhouse. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner. This man is making his mixed martial arts debut, standing at 5 feet 6 inches tall. He weighed in at 140.8 pounds and fights out of Front Royal, Virginia. Here is Christian "The Rock" Rodman. And standing across the cage, fighting out of the red corner, a mixed martial artist also making his mixed martial arts debut, standing at 5 feet 7 inches tall. He weighed in at 138.6 pounds and fights out of Oulu, Finland. Here is Ali Carlinian. And when the action begins, our referee in charge is Matthew Goodhart.
APFC Gun International by way of Ali from Finland. He takes on a tough challenge in The Rock, Christian Rodman from Front Royal, Virginia. Ali is certainly in enemy territory here tonight, but as well prepped as you could possibly be. Rodman opens up with a couple testy jabs.
Rodman looking to get his hands on his opponent right away, throwing that double jab right down the middle.
Good connection right there from Ali, as he is just speeding his way into a grappling exchange here. Now hammering with some knees to the body.
Nice knees by Carlinian. Did I do it?
Did
I do it? I think I might have done it, Ben. Anyway,
with that.
Carlinian has his opponent here against the cage, just looking that over and under position, maybe looking to land knees. I don't know much about his ground game here. We expect him to come in here and strike, but he seems very comfortable and controlled in that position.
A lot of jockeying for dominance here. What can one guy do to separate themselves?
So, I mean, if you're Carlinian, you definitely want to try to get away from the underhooks. He's a striker. He needs space. He needs distance. I think Rodman is probably the one that wants to keep it close, and that's less dangerous from him. So you see him having the wrist control there. But Carlinian doing a great job. He has head position. He has the underhook. I mean, he's landing shots here. Nothing devastating, but he's scoring points.
Christian Rodman motioning to the referee that he's doing all right here, clutched against the cage, trying to work his way out, digging in with one of his hooks. Can he get it? He finds the under. Carlinian is just a physical specimen here, David.
Very much so. Every time you see Rodman try to get his back against from the cage, Carlinian's just like, no, you're going where I want you to be, and he's imposing his will there.
Carlinian simply making The Rock wear his weight, trying to chip away. Excellent work
Very
by
much
Rodman.
so. That might be a strategy there by Carlinian, just making him work. That way when he does create space and goes to work on his feet, man, he's just not as fresh.
Final 60 seconds here in round number 1. Potential problem with this stalemated position is that nobody's really making reads, David.
Very much so. I mean, both of these guys are young fighters, too. A lot of times when you're nervous, what you want to do is you just want to grab your opponent just to get familiar with her, and that kind of helps you get more comfortable, and that's probably what we're seeing right now.
Rodman with a quick left hand, but Ali connects with a right.
That was a laser-sharp right hand by Carlinian.
And Carlinian back in on the grappling. Knees from both gentlemen. Seems like Rodman can find a bit of a separation here, potentially.
Rodman now with the body lock. I was going to see if he's going to work himself out. That was a good position to work yourself off the cage. However, Carlinian just too strong.
It's interesting how Carlinian's corner is telling him to disengage, but Ali is content to get in on the grappling.
Very much so. I think that's also a comfort thing. You know, he's still kind of finding himself there.
Big connection by both guys as we come to the final frames of round number 1. Ali Carlinian and Christian "The Rock" Rodman.
Shades of Robbie Lawler with that dirty boxing there by Carlinian. Just grab a head and punch away like Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
If you're in the corner of Ali Carlinian, what are you telling him right now?
Well, I think we're going to listen in, so the corners are going to tell you better than I can. I saw though from Rodman, even though he didn't land bunch of strikes. When he threw his strikes, he looked very comfortable. That
Absolutely.
double jab, throwing the right hand. He even swept the left hook around Carlinian's guard. He seems pretty fluid there. I think if he wanted to create space, I think he could find some success there.
We'll see if that framing elbow is in effect. If Carlinian goes back on the grappling, Ali Carlinian and Christian Rodman, round 2 here at APFC. Excellent connections by both guys. Now they're swinging hammers, David Evans.
Rodman just coming out, just throwing bombs, man. And Carlinian coming forward. This is really a battle of wills here at this point.
A lot of strikes landed. Carlinian in on the hips. We'll see if he can secure the takedown.
Leaning in on the double leg. We see the striker going for the double leg. I mean, maybe that's why he was so comfortable just in the clinch position. Maybe he has a wrinkle to his game that maybe we aren't even aware about.
Carlinian certainly working on the wrestling in this fight camp. If you're Rodman, how do you pop back up?
So if you're Rodman, you definitely want to try to get your knees on the inside of Carlinian's hips to create space and try to get your butt and your back to the cage more. But Carlinian on the opposite hand is doing everything right. Got to the double leg, got him to his butt is coming out to a side. He picked a side, I'm gonna go this side, and he's scooting his back away from the cage. Now he's in position to land some strikes and even advance past his guard.
The strength of Ali Carlinian heavily apparent here in this position. 1 minute, 45 seconds remains in round number 2. Rodman absolutely grounded.
Very much so. I mean, he seems to be comfortable, you know, as he said earlier and yesterday, he's comfortable grappling. I'm looking to see how he's going to be able to work off his back here.
Trying to bridge. Carlinian rides with it. Really just shutting down that left side of Rodman's body.
Very much so. I mean, we see Rodman with the figure 4 on the leg there. That's going to keep him attached, though. So that shows me that he's going to be comfortable there, and he's not really looking to explode up, so to speak. Perhaps maybe wall walk here, but whenever they were in the open, he attacks that figure 4, and maybe he's going to look to work on the opposite side off of his back.
Ali Carlinian working it well. 60 seconds remain in round number 2.
Carlinian just being like a wet blanket right here, just making Rodman carry every part of his weight here.
Beautiful elbows onto the skull of Rodman.
Rodman gave him a look there for a second, like, how dare you?
Ali Carlinian was listening in on the Rodman corner and took his own advice. You could hear Rodman's corner.
So
urging
Rodman
him to throw up an armbar.
Rodman was in a great position to throw an armbar, but it looked like he's going to go for a knee bar there, transition.
Heavy ground and pound from the fin.
Now the gift and the curse about attacking the legs, it's like, okay, if you get it, you're in a great position, but if you don't, you're in the worst position for your opponent on top to land strikes.
The risk and reward not paying off for Christian Rodman. Ali Carlinian dominating round number 2. A couple elbows from both sides, but Carlinian's got a bit more mustard on it, David Evans.
Very much so, man. Just slowly chipping away, making his opponent carry his weight. I'm liking what I'm seeing from him so far. I mean, the striker is doing a great job controlling the grappling portions of this fight.
Talking about grappling, let's take some highlights of round number 2. A lot of dominance from Finland's own Ali Carlinian.
Here we have Carlinian just marching forward, throwing the 1-2, but Rodman's like, hey, I got something for you too. 1-2, teep down the middle, just answering everything until Carlinian made the adjustments, got in on the double leg, and took this to the ground, which we did not expect from him, let alone expect it for him to dominate in this portion of the fight. But he did. He controlled position for position. His head position was great. Got past the guard, got to the half guard, was able to inflict a little bit of damage, but more so just controlled time for Carlinian on top.
And there's that leg lock attempt again. Bit ill-advised as Ali Carlinian just rained down some heavy ground and pound. Round number 3 between Carlinian and Christian "The Rock" Rodman. You got to think, if you're Rodman, there is an argument for maybe being down 2 rounds. You might need a finish.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's safe to say that he is down. You know, we saw some good stuff for him, but Carlinian has just been marching forward the whole time and is really taking control of this fight. Beautiful right hand.
Had us both
yeah.
in the same headspace. Yeah. Ali Carlinian impressing with the striking and grappling. Now again, deep in on the clinch. There's an elbow on the Rock. Wow. These are heavy right hands from Carlinian. Rodman trying to return, trying to give it back, but Carlinian's pressure is just breaking him gradually.
Carlinian's pressure, man, is just allowing him to really impose his will there in the cage. You know, throwing the punches in bunches and then transitioning to the double leg here, which I never thought I would be saying. But he's having great success here as he lands another takedown.
Christian Rodman now in the center of the octagon practically. Near that Smiles logo in the Real Brazil Steakhouse.
So if you're Rodman here, you got to try to look for a submission off of your back. I mean, he's kind of stagnant, so where Carlinian has him beat is he has his hips square. So if I'm Rodman, you want to try to get your hips out to the side, try to throw those legs up. We saw him do it earlier, almost threw up an arm bar, went to the knee bar instead. Like, he has to find a way to finish this fight.
Rodman trying to kick Ali Carlinian while he's off of his back. Probably not the most effective move, David.
No, but I mean, by any means necessary at this point. You're down 2 rounds, a minute and a half. You just got to fight. You know, you can't think martial arts at this point. You got to go in there, you got to fight, and you got to find a window of opportunity.
Carlinian content to just wear on the smaller Christian Rodman. As the fight has progressed, Carlinian's success has just kind of gone with it. Feels like he's as firmly in the driver's seat as he could possibly be.
Very much so, and he's been just doing everything and keeping it simple. He's not getting himself out of his comfort zone. He's just keeping it simple, marching forward, throwing the strikes he's comfortable throwing it. Basic double legs, basic ground and pound and positioning on top. Nothing extravagant, but it's effective.
Finland zone, sticking to the fundamentals. Now just grinding that forearm against Christian Rodman. This has got to be the most uncomfortable place in the world for Rodman.
Very much so, and there's a lot going on here, even though it may not look like it if you're on the outside looking in, but for both guys, this is not a comfortable position, especially when you're in control on top and you know somebody, you have someone that's a threat on the bottom. You can't really rest on your morals, or you can't rest in the position. So Carlinian's doing all of the right things, head position, hip pressure, moving forward, and he's really working a lot harder than it may look.
Ali Carlinian upsetting Front Royal Virginia's own in a dominating, suffocating affair. Carlinian trying to put some exclamation points on a really well put together win, David Evans.
Very much so. I liked everything that I saw from both fighters, but Carlinian just being able to stick to his game plan. He kept it simple but precise, and the precision and control is what I believe is going to give him the win tonight.
Finland's own came across seas and impressed greatly here in the Greater Richmond Convention Center.
Ben, do you think you can point Finland out on the map? I suck at geography. I have no idea, man.
I got a B- in my geography class in high school. Let's take it to a couple highlights from the third and final round between Ali Carlinian and Christian Rodman.
Pressure and position was the name of the game here for Carlinian. He came in behind his shots, got to his takedowns, which won him the fight, which no one expected, but that just shows you how he has been improving as a mixed martial artist and not just a striker. You know, he got the positions, he got the takedown. Once he got to positions, he just looked to control, landed strikes when he could, but didn't force anything and just smothered his opponent throughout all 3 rounds of this fight, I'd say it's safe to say. Rodman gave a valiant effort, never gave up, fought all the way to the end here, but it just was not enough.
Let's take it to Shane Graham and find out the winner between Ali Carlinian and Christian Rodman.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 3 hard-fought rounds of action, we go to the judges' scorecards for a decision. All 3 judges scored this contest 30-27, declaring the winner by unanimous decision, Ali Carlinian.
Finland's own gets it done. Ali Carlinian finds the victory via the judges' scorecards. You just can't put it together better than that. David Evans, take us through some of these full fight highlights from Ali Carlinian.
Man, Carlinian was very impressive. I mean, his opponent was definitely not going down without a fight, but Carlinian's pressure and his ability to just march forward and keep it simple and stay basic, the fundamentals, is what got him the W here tonight. Beautiful takedowns, which no one was expecting to see, but not only the takedowns, but the control once he got to the ground. Control position for position. Didn't step out of his comfort zone. Didn't, try to go for a submission, just controlled pressure, landed strikes on top, dealt with the resistance from Rodman on the bottom there, kind of put him in some awkward positions, but punched his way out of them. You know, it wasn't always pretty, but it worked for him, and he was able to grind this out throughout all 3 rounds.
And he's got a good mustache to boot.
The mustache, I mean, is just icing on the cake at this point.
Victory for Finland. Way to go, Ali Carlinian. We take it to the tail of the tape for our next bout here at the Greater Richmond Convention Center between Jesus Colleen and Sean Murphy. Each guy 2-1 overall as an amateur, but 6 years difference with Sean Murphy being the elder man, and will have a 1 inch in height advantage. Jesus Colleen weighed in at 155.8, Sean Murphy at 155.6. We send it inside to Shane Graham to bring these next 2 opponents into the ring.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our next fight of the evening. Please welcome to the cage, fighting out of the blue corner, Sean Murphy.
Here is Sean Murphy making the APFC debut. Really good career overall so far. Strikes in his debut against Muhammad Asin, get it done, and then a split decision over Ryan Smith. He did come up short against Byron Wilson, who we'll see later tonight, but good opponents, tough tests, and that's all led to him being the 19th ranked amateur lightweight in Virginia.
Definitely some experience there, some notable names there on his resume. I mean, walking out to Migos fight night, I think he knows what tonight is all about, man. I can't wait to see him get in there.
In his corner tonight, Kelly McCann, Michelle Washington, and Hunter Starner, which is what we'd expect from the Renegade Combat Sports Club. They've got a really good stable of athletes and have a great approach to their fight camps and their fight prep. Here he is, Sean Murphy, with the Irish trunks.
And his opponent set to make his way to the cage and fighting out of the red corner, Jesus Colleen.
Jesus Colleen similarly has a penchant for punching, 100% finish rate as an amateur, 2 knockouts, 1 in the first round, 1 in the second. Did come up short in October of 2022 against Julian Connerton, lost by decision. He said this one's not going to the scorecards, David.
You know, he has a penchant for punching and a propensity for finishes, so this is going to be a great win. Both of these guys seem really motivated. I mean, just looking at it in his eyes right now, he's very intense, and like you said, he's not out there to play games. He wants that finish, so Ben, let's not blink on this one.
Certainly don't blink. From Fort Wayne, Indiana, Jesus Colleen by way of Mexico, representing that country well here tonight up in Richmond, Virginia. I had a great time talking to him yesterday. A very nice guy, soft-spoken, didn't say too much, but seemed like a really good dude.
So he's going to go in there and let his actions speak for himself to sound like.
That is the expectation. He's cornered by Ryan McDonald and Mike Lee here tonight. 22 years young. Again, we talked about the age difference earlier tonight with Blake Correa and Walter Deeks Jr. That went to the youngster. We'll see if history repeats itself.
You know, I made a joke about the old men's strength, you know, but it says a lot when you're older and you have that experience. So we saw in our last fight that he just wasn't experienced, though he was older and physically a specimen. You know, just having that ring time and that ring general will carry you a long way.
Experienced amateurs with Jesus Colleen and Sean Murphy. We take it inside to Shane Graham to get this fight underway.
Ladies and gentlemen, this next fight is 3 3-minute rounds in the APFC lightweight division. This fight is brought to us by Third Coast T-shirts. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, a mixed martial artist standing at 5 feet, 11 inches tall. He weighed in at 155.6 pounds and fights out of Fredericksburg, Virginia. Here is Sean Murphy. And his opponent standing across the cage, fighting out of the red corner, a mixed martial artist standing at 5 feet, 10 inches tall. He weighed in at 155.8 pounds and fights out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. Here is Jesus Colleen. And when the action begins, our referee in charge is Jason King.
Jesus Colleen and Sean Murphy You can see Colleen starting off on the ground. Comes up, both guys meet in the middle, good touch of gloves. Colleen right in his face, David.
Colleen springs up and takes the center right away and looking to get right at it, both of these guys.
Heavy leather from both individuals. Sean Murphy gets the takedown, puts Colleen on his back.
Sean Murphy, like, perhaps I've seen enough on the feet. Let's change it up here, and puts his opponent on his back. Beautiful double leg transition to side guard here.
They call that the double leg, David Evans. Really testy position for Jesus Colleen. You don't want to make any big errors with a big dude like Sean Murphy on top of you.
Very much so. I mean, Murphy just not giving Colleen any space there on top, which tells you that's probably where he wants to be in this fight. Colleen may be looking to transition and go the leg lock game. We kind of spoke to that earlier about the pros and cons of that. We got a big guy on top of you landing shots. Maybe we just don't reach for the leg.
Maybe don't go for it. Again, ill-advised would be my thoughts on it. 2 minutes remain in round number 1. Sean Murphy trying to get to the back here, locks in the hooks. Could be a deep submission attempt right here, David Evans.
Great job by Murphy initially after the transition, bumping his opponent off of his base, which allowed him to sneak that rear naked choke in. It's tight. I'm thinking Colleen doesn't look like he's freaking out or frantic yet, but that thing looks pretty tight to me, man.
Oh, that's deep under the chin. Sean Murphy submits Jesus Colleen in round number 1 in Richmond, Virginia.
Man, I mean, that was beautiful. I mean, Murphy almost looked like a wrestler, a D1 wrestler, the way he transitioned, took the back, bumped him off to the side, got right to the rear naked choke. I mean, that was impressive and technically sound.
Let's take it to the highlights. David Evans, walk me through this rear naked choke.
Right here, there ain't much to say. The choke is deep, is under the throat, and at this point, it's like all you got to do is wait for the ref to stop the fight.
Tough night at the office for Jesus Colleen, but Sean Murphy, Fredericksburg, Virginia, stand up. He gets the first round submission.
Murphy was not coming in looking to get paid for overtime tonight, I'll tell you that, man.
Like you said, felt the striking prowess of Colleen on the feet, decided, I've got a better path to victory.
Very much so, intelligent performance.
We take it inside to Shane Graham to make that first round submission official.
Ladies and gentlemen, referee Jason King has called a stop to the action at 1 minute, 25 seconds of the very first round. Declaring the winner by submission due to a rear naked choke, Sean Murphy!
Advancing to 3-1 overall and successful in the APFC debut. Great job to Sean Murphy. David Evans, let's take it to some of these fight highlights again. It was a quick one.
It was a quick one. The entire fight was a highlight. We saw him coming out banging, but then Murphy's like, just when you thought you had the answers, I changed all the questions. Shoots the double leg, gets immediately to side control. You know, it showed right away that he was not looking to give his opponent an inch there on the ground. Kept his chest on him, landed some beautiful strikes. The second his opponent turned his back, bumped him, got him off his base, got the boots in, snuck in the rear naked choke, and that's all she wrote.
And you could see just the pressure and the torquing that Sean Murphy had. You weren't going to get out of that one.
No.
Excellent job by Sean Murphy in the APFC debut. He is victorious, and I'm sure we'll see him back. Let's take it to a tail of the tape for our next fight of the evening between Anthony Lorenzo and D. Reddick. Lorenzo 1-0, D. Reddick undefeated at 2-0 similarly. Both guys 24 years young. 1 inch in height separates them, with D. Reddick being the taller man. Reddick weighed in at 155.4. Anthony Lorenzo at 155 on the dot. We take it inside to Shane Graham to bring these lightweights into the cage.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for our next bout of the evening. Please welcome to the cage our first fighter, coming to us by way of the blue corner, D. Reddick!
Mr. Entertainment himself, it is D. Reddick. David Evans must see TV whenever this individual performs. He has all of the styles necessary to make it into superstardom. 2-0 from Rock Hill, South Carolina. The Revenant, D. Reddick, graces the APFC octagon.
Very much so, man. He has all the intangibles. I mean, his personality nonetheless matches his skills and everything there. I'm excited to see him go out there and put on a show, as he's doing already as we see him walk out.
We've talked about hairstyles tonight a lot. I got to get your thoughts on the bleached upstairs.
You know, nice fade, rocking the OBJ blonde there on top. You know, I thought about trying that once or twice, but it just wasn't for me. But he's pulling it off, and it matches his gear. I mean, come on, man. It's on brand.
It's on brand for D. Reddick. And what else is on brand? Winning. This guy only does that, and in the most entertaining fashions possible. Physically as fit as one lightweight could be, 5'11", 155, longer, rangier at this weight class.
Lean, mean, man, talented, has all the intangibles as we said earlier. I mean, only time's gonna tell. It's a matter of time before this kid, you know, thinks about going to the next level.
D. Reddick assured us that a finish was in his future here at APFC 6. It's time to make that a reality. Mr. Entertainment himself, inside the APFC octagon, D. Reddick, welcome to Virginia.
And his opponent set to make his way to the cage and fighting out of the red corner, Anthony Lorenzo.
A beast by the truest definitions. Anthony Lorenzo is a guy that has been there and done that. David Evans, he told us that this fight, again, not going to the scorecards. He just feels better everywhere.
Man, I mean, you got two undefeated guys. As the old saying goes, someone's old, gotta go. Man, I mean, he's coming out, he's intense, he looks very focused. Man, I think that's gonna translate into his approach to this fight. I look for him to go in there with like a no-nonsense style and just look for the finish right away.
The Mandalorian tattoo on that right arm signifies that this individual is a bounty hunter. He's an executioner. He brings in and gets paid.
You know, much like I never, read a comic book, I actually never seen a Star Wars movie or anything. So thank you for that tidbit of knowledge. And, maybe I need to explore, my childhood a little bit and figure out what the hell I was doing.
This broadcast is just making me feel nerdy, David Evans.
Talk nerdy to me, Ben. Let's go.
Richmond, Virginia's own Anthony Lorenzo seeks to extend to 2-0 at 24 years young. He's coached tonight by Luke Hunsaker, Rick McCoy, and Dustin Stanley. The MMA Institute is one of the most prestigious gyms that they've got here, and the prospects that they're turning out, simply remarkable. Here he is.
Very much so.
Anthony Lorenzo.
I think we got a fight on our hands, man. I can tell already, man. The tension in here, you can cut it with a knife and say.
It's palpable. We send it inside to Shane Graham to get these lightweights underway.
Ladies and gentlemen, this next fight is three 3-minute rounds in the APFC lightweight division. This fight is brought to us by Limitless and Smiles CBD. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, a mixed martial artist standing at 5 feet 11 inches tall. He weighed in at 155.4 pounds and fights out of Rock Hill, South Carolina. Here is the Revenant, D. Reddick. And his opponent standing across the cage, fighting out of the red corner, a mixed martial artist standing at 5 feet 10 inches tall. He weighed in at 155 pounds and fights out of Richmond, Virginia. Here is Anthony Lorenzo. And when the action begins, our referee in charge is Matthew Goodhart.
D. Reddick cutting the throat in that introduction, really making his intentions obvious.
Hey, man, when I said we could cut the tension with a knife, man, both of these guys are going to go out there and just try to put an end to each other. Clearly, as Reddick just made a statement.
Laser focused on a finish. D. Reddick and Anthony Lorenzo, both undefeated. We'll see who remains. Massive connection by Reddick.
Lorenzo looking to sneak that left hand over the top on Reddick, as Reddick's holding his chin kind of high, which is dangerous, but maybe he's just comfortable there in the pocket.
Beautiful head movement right there from Reddick. Tony Lorenzo, though, is millimeters away from making Reddick pay.
Very much so, but Lorenzo looked like he's just kind of looking to get his timing.
Tony Lorenzo, Richmond, Virginia's own. It's a big right hand from Reddick.
Lorenzo trying to time that left hand, switches stance there, comes back. Reddick comfortable staying on the outside, looking to maybe pick him apart there.
You could tell the skill level that D. Reddick is at because of the evasions. He's not moving miles, he's moving inches to get out of the way.
Very much so. He's not panicked. He's not panicking. He's doing just enough to get out of the way, which is going to put him in a position to counter.
Tony Lorenzo back on the grappling entry, reversed by Reddick. Great job on Lorenzo for making things different and showing him a multitude of different looks in the first minute here.
Very much so. I mean, both of these fighters seems to have a lot of layers to their game. Reddick in a good position here. He has Lorenzo against the cage, back against the cage, looking to work. I'm curious to see how Reddick is going to approach this fight from a grappling perspective.
Knees up the middle from Lorenzo. Tony Lorenzo firing. D. Reddick lands with a leg kick. Such an interesting way to hold the hands from D. Reddick here. Kind of open palmed.
Perhaps a low blow right there, as D. Reddick suggested. Sneaky snap quad kick he's throwing in there. Just very comfortable and elusive on his feet is D. Reddick.
Final 60 seconds in round number 1. Lorenzo whiffs on that big front kick, left hand, almost finds its way through.
The only thing from Reddick, he's throwing those kicks and I like him, but he's not throwing anything in front of him.
Reddick goes airborne. There's a right hand that connects. Tony Lorenzo eating everything that D. Reddick's given him.
Lorenzo answering with a kick of his own, perhaps, and then taking a page out of Reddick's book.
This is just a you go and I repeat type of fight. D. Reddick looking for a highlight. Tony Lorenzo motioning that it was a grazing of the cup potentially.
Reddick saying, no, we got to go. We're going to keep going.
20 seconds remain in round number 1. D. Reddick and Tony Lorenzo. Now Reddick in on the grappling, nearly brought the cage off its hinges.
Reddick in on the shot and then doesn't forces it, creates space and lands a sneaky elbow over the top. Veteran maneuver there.
D. Reddick flowing inside the octagon here in Richmond. Once again, goes back to the well on that knee stomp. Round 1 comes to a close. Referee might want to try and get a separation here between these two. A lot of smack talking between D. Reddick and Tony Lorenzo.
Referee zoned out for a split second and they took every opportunity. We almost had a fight within a fight. I don't think I've ever seen that
I'm surprised
before.
that they didn't throw hands right there in that moment. They kept it verbal. Man, what a fun round between Lorenzo and Reddick. What did you think D. Reddick did well before? Let's take it to some highlights, David Evans.
Here we have Reddick just working on the outside, man, just picking his opponent apart, throwing the jab, snapping the kicks. Lorenzo, though, marching forward the whole time and just letting his opponent know, hey, I'm in here, I'm in this fight. Reddick did a great job of just getting his opponent back against the cage, had good position here, didn't overcommit to that position because he got back to where he wanted to be. The strikes, I really like the strikes that I see from Reddick, throwing the kicks, throwing the knees. The only thing is I would like to see him maybe throw some punches in front of it. Then an extra little highlight here, we almost have a fight within a fight where the ref just looked away for a split second after the bell, and these fighters almost, we almost had a 4th round there.
Bad blood between the hometown hero, Tony Lorenzo, and D. Reddick. Round number 2 is underway. Reddick's distance management seems to be the name of his game.
Very much so. However, it's what I kind of said lends itself too early. He's staying in the pocket. He's doing a great job hand fighting, but he's got to move his head. If he gets caught moving back with Lorenzo moving forward the way he is, he can get clipped there.
Beautiful control of the hands from D. Reddick here, but Tony Lorenzo really making him pay on these strikes. Good stance switching from Lorenzo. Now in southpaw, left hand bounces off of D. Reddick's head.
Reddick doing a great job controlling the distance. I think he's taking one too many steps back though. And if he gets caught on that back foot, he can be in a bad position because Lorenzo's just coming in often and throwing reckless. And I mean, it puts you in the mindset of like an Anderson Silva and Chris Weidman kind of situation.
Oh, good connections right there from Lorenzo. Feels like D. Reddick is trying to set something up, but unsure of what that is, David.
I mean, I'm unsure as well. It looks like he's trying to see something, but you have to also move at the same time.
Oh, beautiful flurry from Reddick. Now here on the body lock.
Beautiful flurry into the over and under body lock. Lorenzo doing everything he's supposed to do. Has double unders now. He's in a good position to get his back off of the cage here. I would hate to see him kind of hang out here and just burn clock when he did everything right. You're in a good position. Bounce your butt off the cage. Kick your foot off the cage. Do whatever you have to do to get back to the center.
Just move, as they say. 1 minute, 20 seconds remains in round number 2. Back and forth we go in this position. Reddick trying to separate, big shots on the exit.
Reddick doing a good job of throwing strikes on the breakaway. A lot of fighters forget that. You know, they fight in a pattern where we're engaged and then we're not engaged. We're engaged, we're not engaged. But there's often opportunities to strike in the midst of those transitions.
Crushing blow to the body from D. Reddick, and then again, slight evasion of the offense of Lorenzo. Now jabbing his way in. Lorenzo clearly has a lot of power, but just a bit too far out to land it.
Very much so. Has a lot of power, but he's not really doing a great job of placing it.
Lorenzo, like a bull, tried to spear through D. Reddick. Reddick, like a matador, evaded. Oh, D. Reddick maybe tried to lift him and toss him there.
A little wrestling action there.
Tony Lorenzo finds himself in a very familiar position right here on the cage. D. Reddick off of the exit, explosive.
We gotta watch that elbow there by Reddick as he breaks away. I mean, as this fight goes on in the 3rd round, that's something you could catch in your opponent. You could put your opponent out with something like that.
We saw Brock Saden use some elbows beautifully just a few fights ago. Maybe D. Reddick will take a page out of that book. Great dip and entry right there from Reddick to close out round number 2.
Nice trip. Beautiful trip right at the buzzer. I don't know if we can count it, but he definitely gets an A for effort on that takedown.
A lot of control too. I mean, you saw him. He wanted that elbow, but he held it there and didn't go after the bell. Respect from D. Reddick. Anthony Pettis is here, the founder, former UFC champion, Anthony Showtime Pettis, and you got Bellator champ right there, Sergio Pettis. Let's take it to some highlights from round number 2. David Evans, what do you see?
Here we have it. Reddick just coming in, catching the foot, coming in, got to the body lock position. We saw him get to this position a lot here. Had his opponent's back against the cage, was doing a great job throwing that elbow over the top. That one just glanced, barely missed. But however, Lorenzo just kept coming forward, We see D just being comfortable playing on the outside, and he's doing a lot of watching. Maybe he sees something we don't. Got the takedown right at the buzzer there. I don't know if we can count it, but hey, if you're Reddick, you're like, hey, I know I can do that now.
D. Reddick starting round number 3 with a little bit of a dance here in front of the commentating booth. This guy's fun, man.
He's fun, definitely a showman. You know, definitely going out there. He seems comfortable. But we got to perform as well, too, because we're in a fight.
Final 3 minutes between D. Reddick and Tony Lorenzo. Big head kick by Reddick. Feels like now is the round where Reddick's going to start unloading all of the things he's been cooking up.
Perhaps, you know, the first 2 rounds just kind of analyzing and seeing what Lorenzo's bringing at him, and now he can maybe pick them apart. It's a nice spinning attack.
Again, just a back and forth of similar moves. Tony Lorenzo trying the spinning. Reddick trying
Beautiful
the spinning.
shoulder roll there by Reddick. You don't really see that too often in MMA.
Everything is on point tonight for D. Reddick, but Tony Lorenzo, as game as they come, has been with him tit for tat.
Very much so. He's very much in this fight. I don't think either fighter to this point has done anything substantial to say, hey, put a stamp on the fact that they won this fight. So it's still open for grabs, if you ask me.
Lorenzo, labored movement, big knee right there from Reddick. Reddick and Lorenzo in the pocket.
Beautiful. Just when I talk about putting a stamp on this fight, Reddick comes out, slams him down with a beautiful double leg.
D. Reddick with some style points on the hometown hero, Tony Lorenzo. Lorenzo bounces back to his feet.
Lorenzo did a great job of, you know, getting back to his feet. However, he's been hanging out against the cage a little too much in this fight.
Spinning back fist there from D. Reddick. Lorenzo sticks Reddick with a good one. 90 seconds remain in this fight. Somebody needs to leave it all in the octagon, in my opinion.
Reddick just made a statement. You know, that transition into the takedown and put an emphasis up there with the slam. You know, however, he can't rest on his morals either. He's got to go right back to what he's been doing. Double leg. Now he's in a good position to maybe close out the last 60 seconds or so of this round.
It's D1D Reddick right here in round number 3. Elbow on Lorenzo. Dominant position for D. Reddick. He's got a minute. Let's see what he can do with it.
Lorenzo able to get back to his feet. Great job by Reddick making the adjustment, getting the cradle, dumping his opponent back down to the mat.
A lot of control here, keeping that left leg of Lorenzo tied up.
Rolling over a little roll through cradle reminds me a bit of myself back in my wrestling days right there. I never thought I'd see that in MMA.
The Revenant, D. Reddick, with a strong third round here. Tony Lorenzo has 20 seconds to switch the momentum.
You know, Reddick came in comfortable. You know, he was very much a performer, but this round he went out there and he got it. He went out there, he got it. He put an exclamation point on his performance, which is exactly what he needed to do.
Final 10 seconds. Lorenzo Reddick trying to trade in the pocket is Tony Lorenzo.
Whoa.
Once again, Reddick holds back on that punch after the bell. We find ourselves heading to the judges' scorecards. David Evans, your thoughts?
Consummate professional by D. I mean, he definitely got into some spots where he could have, you know, if he didn't pull back, we probably wouldn't even question it because it was so close. I liked what I saw from him. He's very comfortable in there. Did a lot of looking, a lot of watching. I think he can execute a bit more, but I mean, I think he's in a good position.
Let's take some highlights from that third and final round between D. Reddick and Tony Lorenzo. David Evans, walk me through it.
Very much so. Controlled the pressure there. Controlled the pressure of Lorenzo to D. Reddick. Just keeping his hands out, comfortable, picking them apart on the outside. Nice hand fighting, transitioning from strikings to the takedowns, throwing some elbows. So we saw a little bit of everything when he got his moments to shine here. Got his opponent's back against the cage there, worked there. Transition to the double. I didn't expect to see this from D, but that shows a lot of layers to his game there, and that essentially allowed him to kind of pull out the for sure victory, in my opinion, in this fight. Great job. He did a great job countering, a lot of kicks, a lot of, man, I mean, just everything. I mean, I could talk all day about that performance.
I love that they've buried the hatchet. Tony Lorenzo, D. Reddick, smiling inside the octagon, sharing some respect. D. Reddick went on a tour de France around the octagon, talking to the Pettis brothers over there, came over to the commentating booth, said that, you know, Tony Lorenzo's tough. I couldn't get that first round finish like I wanted, but I still did what I had to do, and here he is, dancing and as confident as Mr. Entertainment, the Revenant, D. Reddick could be.
Definitely a good showing for D. Reddick.
I can't dance. Contrary to popular belief, I can't dance.
It would be a shame if he loses a decision after all of the celebration here. We send it inside to Shane Graham to find out the winner between Tony Lorenzo and D. Reddick.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 3 hard-fought rounds of action, we go to the judges' scorecards for a decision. Our judges score this contest 29-28, Lorenzo. 29-28, Reddick. And 30-27 for your winner by split decision, the Revenant, D. Reddick.
The Revenant, D. Reddick, lights it up in enemy territory, finds his way to a win via split decision. You saw when they announced it, he didn't recognize his own nickname.
Yeah, he didn't recognize his own nickname. It made my heart drop for a little bit there for a second.
Let's take it to some highlights between Reddick and Lorenzo. What a fun fight this was, David Evans.
Much of the fight here for Reddick and Lorenzo, I mean, very entertainment. We saw Reddick coming out, picking his opponent apart on the outside, you know, looking to counter. However, when the distance was closed, he switched it up and was able to grapple and wrestle. We saw some good transitions after strikes coming in, boom, 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 landing 1, 2 knees. And then he transitioned to some takedowns too, which we didn't see there, but I think that was the difference maker in this fight, if you ask me. Here we have it, coming in, following the leg in, locking the body locks up, controlled him on the cage, which I think Lorenzo spent too much time on the cage there. But D was pretty much comfortable in every aspect of this fight. On his feet, picking his opponent apart, against the cage, you know, just throwing the elbows, switched it up, went double leg, controlled him on the ground, man. a beautiful, comprehensive performance there by the Revenant.
And a great effort by Tony Lorenzo. Let's take it to the tail of the tape for our next fight of the night between Demario Macklemore and Cheyenne Coker. 38 years young for Demario, 27 for Cheyenne. 1 inch separates these two individuals, with Demario being the taller man. 2-2 for Macklemore. 3-1-1 for Coker. Macklemore weighed in at 167.4. Coker weighed in at 169.2. We take it inside to Shane Graham to bring these two welterweights into the ring.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our next fight of the evening. Please welcome to the cage our first fighter, coming to us by way of the blue corner, Cheyenne Coker.
Cheyenne Coker, standing in front of that UFC Fight Pass APFC banner. Started karate as a kid, then transitioned to wrestling, added Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because of his brothers. Felt like one of the biggest challenges so far in his career, David Evans, have been the injuries. He needed an experimental procedure on one part of his body, and it caused him to really reconsider whether or not this was the path that he wanted to go down, but he's here now. It seems like his answer is obvious.
I mean, he's here now, and you speak about fighting. I mean, you speak about injuries. I mean, it's like the sport is synonymous with injury. You almost say there's no fighter that comes into a fight without an injury. But pushing through those injuries, grinding through those injuries, those can be very valuable experiences within and of himself, and then that'll make the rewards of winning just even that more, even that much more meaningful.
Cheyenne Coker studied electrical and computer engineering in college. His father said that he could not fight until he had graduated. At that graduation, when he was in his cap and gown, he informed his father that he had a fight booked in 8 weeks.
And his father couldn't go back on his word, and now he's here fighting, and I'm looking forward to see, how he's going to go out there. I know he has that karate background. I want to see how his striking is going to add up to that.
Cheyenne Coker inside the APFC Octagon here in Richmond.
And his opponent set to make his way to the cage, fighting out of the red corner, Demario Macklemore.
38 years young. If you looked at the physique, you certainly wouldn't be able to guess it. This guy knows how to stay in shape. Started karate and boxing as a kid. These days, all he said he does is teach kids, work out, and stay fit.
And as he takes his shirt off, it's going to show that, the fit part for sure. I'm excited just about this fight. You got two long, lean strikers that are both athletic and explosive. I mean, this one is definitely going to be a crowd pleaser.
Demario Macklemore, top 30 amateur welterweight in Virginia. When asked about some of the struggles in his life, he mentioned losing some family members and friends along the way. He's here, he's awake, he's alive, was the final quote that we got from him. And another thing he mentioned was that in these fights, it's not him versus the opponent, it's him versus him.
And there's something to that. I mean, I say that often myself. He's like, you're often your biggest opponent. We have fighters that lose fights before they even step in the cage, backstage, just, everything about going into a fight is unnatural when you think about it. You lock yourself in a cage with another human being who's trying to do damage to you. Like we do every day what people try to avoid in their everyday lives.
That's why I'm here ringside calling it. Here he is, Demario Macklemore. He predicted a first-round stoppage. We'll see if he can get it going. We send it inside to Shane Graham to get these two fighters underway.
Gentlemen, this next fight is three-minute rounds in the APFC welterweight division. Brought to us by Yodel Mobile. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, a mixed martial artist standing at 6 feet tall. He weighed in at 169.2 pounds and fights out of Durham, North Carolina. Here is the Pakistanimal, Cheyenne Coker. And his opponent standing across the cage, fighting Fighting out of the red corner, a mixed martial artist standing at 6 feet 1 inch tall. He weighed in at 167.4 pounds and fights out of Fredericksburg, Virginia. Here is Demario Macklemore. And when the action begins, our referee in charge, Jason King.
A lot of love for both fighters here tonight. I want to mention that Cheyenne Coker, fighting by way of Pakistan, has family back there in that country and the United Kingdom. Said it means the world to carry that country on his back here in APFC. Macklemore, Coker, 3-minute rounds.
No glove touch by these guys. They want to get out there and just get right to it.
Both guys predicted a finish. Demario Macklemore said that this one would not go past the first round. Big kick right there on the outside.
Two karate practitioners, so we can probably see this fight being contested at a distance here.
Kicks from Demario, doubling up on both sides, showing the hip dexterity. Cheyenne Coker just stalking his prey right now. Big entry from Coker.
Coker transitioning right now to the double leg. Macklemore doing a good job defending so far, getting his hips parallel to the cage. Looks like he has an underhook over on the left-hand side.
Outside of fighting, Cheyenne Coker works in IT. One thing that he said to us is that he's notorious for picking up, different hobbies and dropping them. Had a rock climbing phase earlier this year. No longer has it.
Well, he's very committed to this double leg, if I must say so myself. A lot of times in these kind of positions here, both of these guys are working. You have Macklemore working to defend. You got Coker working to get the double leg, but he's not having success with it, so maybe he do a good job of maybe transitioning. So if he's going to drop anything right now, hey, maybe drop the double leg, let's transition to a single leg and work from there, because, he's winning technically because he has his opponent back against the cage, but he's expending a lot of energy here.
And in the judges' optics, I would imagine, just more of a stalemate position.
Very much so. We've seen rounds where it's been like this, and you have the guy back against the fence, but he's landing elbows, he's landing strikes, and you almost want to give him the round.
Gives me shades of Cam the Sham Jordan versus Angelo Robles. He was able to get a split decision just doing that the whole fight. Or get to a split decision. He did lose. 45 seconds remain between Macklemore and Coker in round number 1.
Coker keeping those hands low. Macklemore got his hands up high.
Hands up high like the city can't hold us for Demario Macklemore.
I see what you did there, Ben. That almost went over my head for a second.
Demario feeling himself in these final 20 seconds. A lot of movement from the older gentleman. Again, you would not be able to tell that he's 38.
Very much so, man. He's light on his feet, quick, powerful.
Beautiful kick from Demario.
Doing a lot of movement, but I would like to see him be more effective.
Macklemore opening up at the end of the first round. Doesn't get that first round stoppage, but a fun, exciting affair. Cheyenne Coker.
Very much so, man. He's very, very fun, very athletic. A little acrobatics going on there for a little bit. I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. I think both guys are kind of timid on the outside. I think they just need that first initial clash.
Talking about initial clash, let's take a look at some of them. Highlights from the first round, Cheyenne Coker and Demario Macklemore. David Evans, walk me through it.
You talked about that dexterity there from Macklemore. Switch kick, high, low, high, high. And then we had Coker. He came in on the double leg, was committed to trying to finish that. Almost kind of stalemated there for a little bit, but then they both worked back to the center. And then towards the latter end of the round, we saw Macklemore try to turn it up the volume here. A lot of volume, a lot of movement, but it needs to be a little bit more effective.
Some accuracy potentially needed on both sides. You saw the gamesmanship from Cheyenne Coker after some crafty head movement. Where'd that one go? Cheyenne Coker and Demario Macklemore get going for round number 2. There's a touch of gloves.
They meet right in the center of the cage. This has been the story of this one so far.
Uppercut whiffs right there. Coker connects on a couple strikes.
A lot of feints, a lot of reading on behalf of both guys here.
Representing Pakistan, Shian Coker. Really making the reads here. I mean, you don't see him get out of position too often. He's just slowly pressuring and cutting off the cage.
Very much so. And Macklemore, on the other hand, is just a lot of movement, a little more sporadic. But Coker doing a good job here. He has his opponents back against the cage, body lock position. We saw this in the first round. I'm curious to see if he's going to make the adjustment. He was going for the leg attack last time, maybe working more so upper body. He'll probably have a little bit more success.
Strong base from Demario Macklemore. Now pushing Shian Coker up against the cage. Maybe he'll go for his own takedown.
Now he's in the advantageous position with his opponents back against the cage. But neither one of these guys are known for being grapplers. So, I mean, I don't really expect to see any transitions or any fundamental, high level, takedowns here.
Would be great if Demario unlocked a 5-star suplex right in front of us.
And then I would just eat my words in that case.
1 minute, 30 seconds remains in round number 2. Demario unloading with some shots to the stomach, now kneeing downstairs. Shian evades momentarily. Demario just pushing him, bullying him up against the cage.
Macklemore did a great job dirty boxing on the inside there and even caught Coker on the way out with a sweeping right hook.
It's interesting. Shian Coker's eyes are directly on Demario Macklemore. Demario is kind of looking down and off to the sides.
Yeah, feinting with his eyes. I mean that's kind of intelligent when you're a striker. You don't necessarily want to look at your target because it's a tell, so to speak.
Shot from a mile away from Shian, deep in on the hips. Just under a minute to go. Seems like despite not being a grappler, he's really subscribing to the wrestling approach here.
Yeah, Coker's in on the double leg. I hear his corner saying high C. I think Coker do a better job going to the sweep inside single. However, he has his hands locked now. He may be able to scoop and dump Macklemore on his butt as we see there. However, Macklemore still keeping the head away, still has that post on the opposite side. If we want to see Coker being successful, he has to find a way to knock that post out there from Macklemore.
That's a Heisman Award-winning post right there. I mean, he'll take out a number of defensive guards like that.
Perhaps a little football in his 38-year history.
Shian Coker dedicating to the ground game here to close out round number 2. Demario Macklemore trying to make his way back to the feet. Round 2 comes to a close. David Evans, your immediate thought?
Tough round to score. I think you have to kind of give Coker the edge on that one simply because he ended on top, right? That's the general principle. Ended on top, got the takedown, so he burnt some time on the cage. Still, Coker's been very patient. I think he's maybe a little bit patient, too patient. In this third round here, I'd like to see him pick it up a little more and really make a definitive statement.
Before we get to the third, let's take a look back at that second round. David Evans, some highlights from Shian Coker and Demario Macklemore.
Much what we've seen from Macklemore so far, looking away, throwing the kicks, looking away, throwing the punches. He had his back against the cage initially, but was able to reverse. When he got in the position and had his opponent against the cage, we saw some dirty boxing, caught his opponent there on the exit. However, Coker stayed committed to the takedown and didn't give it up this time. Got the double leg. Macklemore was still defending, did the Heisman, as you say, Ben. And Macklemore just was able to climb, get his back in the last seconds of that round. I got to give that one to Coker simply because he finished that takedown.
Shian trying to rally the crowd here. Round number 3 between Shian Coker and Demario Macklemore. Demario predicted a first-round stoppage. He finds himself in deep waters against Shian.
Now, what I am noticing is Macklemore, he's coming in and he's feinting. He's getting a little more comfortable closing the distance. Coker's not moving his head. He's not reacting. He's not responding. That's not typically a good sign.
Certainly not. We'll see if Demario can capitalize on it. Shian still with the gamesmanship and the confidence inside the pocket there. 2:30 left in round number 3. If I'm Demario, again, we're thinking, could be down 2 rounds. I need to finish this guy.
Very much so. I mean, I'm not sure. I kind of want to give the first one to Macklemore just simply because of his activity. I would have gave the second one to Coker for sure because of the takedown. I mean, I think it's still up for grab, and the energy, whoever brings the most energy to this fight is going to take home the W.
One thing that Demario mentioned in terms of Shian's approach and game plan was that he felt Coker had some really good leg kicks, Not really seeing a ton of those leg kicks here tonight.
Yeah, not much striking from Coker at all, actually. He seems very committed to try to take his opponent down, which is not what I was expecting for sure.
But might be the needed evolution for Shihan Coker, right? Maybe this fight camp, they were thinking, look, we've got good striking fundamentals. Let's really get some live rounds of grappling and try and make it work. Shihan Coker buckling here to Mario Macklemore, trying to capitalize.
Or perhaps they knew that their opponent was explosive and could possibly end this fight, so it's maybe safer to just stay attached and stay close to your opponent.
90 seconds remain in round number 3. DeMario had a moment of brilliance right there, but he'll need some more sustained success if he wants to get his hand raised in the APFC octagon. Shihan Coker beautifully circling and reversing.
We definitely saw some great things from Macklemore, but he's just not very consistent in his approach towards his fight. Whereas Coker, he's not doing a lot of great things, but he's very consistent in his approach. You know, getting to the double leg, getting to the legs, and trying to finish the takedown.
Much like Macklemore's musical career, consistency and all that could be needed. But here he is, again, hammering to the rib cage while in a disadvantageous spot. Shihan Coker almost has that grip.
If I'm a judge, you got to give Macklemore points for that. He got his back against the fence. However, he's landing the strikes. We saw elbows at some point, at some stanza in this fight. I mean, a lot of activity, just not in the best position.
Shihan Coker, 30 seconds to finalize an impression. DeMario Macklemore trying his absolute best to post and get back to the feet.
Coker solidifies the takedown. Doesn't really look like he wants to advance. I know it's short time, but if you're going to advance, this is the time to get up and just throw some heavy leather.
Ground and pound from Shihan Coker. A swarm from the Pakistani to close out round number 3. The hometown hero fired up. Shihan Coker feels like he's done enough, David Evans.
And that's what we needed to see this entire fight. He got in some really good positions, some really good takedown attempts, but it just wasn't enough. But he gave us everything we needed here. He gave the judges everything they needed to see to make a solid decision here in the last 15 seconds or so.
And that's what we talked about earlier in the broadcast. As you said, judges have short-term memory. Shihan Coker maximized the endings of those rounds. DeMario Macklemore as game as they could possibly be. David Evans, let's take it to some highlights from that third and final round.
Here we go. The takedown was the name of the game here for Coker, but he got clipped on that exchange, exiting from a takedown there from Macklemore. Macklemore was always dangerous this entire fight. He's very explosive and caught his opponent in some awkward positions, some awkward exchanges. However, Coker stayed committed to the leg attacks. That double leg was everything that he wanted tonight. Didn't get it every time, but the times that he got it, he made the most of it.
What a fun affair. Seems like grappling has been added to the arsenal of Shihan Coker. Not just a striker now, but a well-rounded, mixed martial artist. We send it inside to Shane Graham to finalize the winner between these two fighters.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 3 hard-fought rounds of action, we go to the judges' scorecards for a decision. Our judges score this contest 29-28, 29-28, and 30-27. All for your winner by unanimous decision, the Pakistani Shihan Coker.
For Pakistan, it's Shihan Coker, victorious tonight. An excellent representation from Pakistan's own David Evans. Let's take it to the fight recap between Shihan Coker and DeMario Macklemore.
Coker representing from Pakistan. Both of these guys representing. They were very good strikers. We saw them initially coming out at distance. They wanted to kind of play the distance game. However, Coker made the adjustments, came in, closed the distance, got to his grappling game. We saw some leg attacks, got to the double leg. Macklemore, though, threw some odd, modified side kick strikes that just kind of kept Coker on his toes. And then once Coker felt, you know, the power and the explosiveness of his opponent, he made the adjustment, closed the distance, got to that double leg, got a few takedowns here, and made a statement every time he got on his opponent's back.
Shihan Coker has absolutely got to be pleased with that one. Cannot wait to see him back. Let's take it to the tail of the tape for our next fight of the night between David Wales and Brandon Gasca. Wales making the amateur debut, Gasca 1-1 overall. 2 years separate these two men, with David Wales being the elder and taller individual with 2 inches in height. David Wales weighed in at 153.8 pounds. Brandon Gasca weighed in at 155.2 pounds. Wales bald, Brandon hair.
You know what? I don't think I could have said it any better myself, Ben.
Gotta find the differences in the athletes, David Evans.
I don't know if I can say anything about David Wales' fade. I mean, there's not much. We're not working with much there.
It's a complete fade.
It's a
I would say
complete
that's
fade,
the definition of fade. Absence of hair is a total fade, as one would say. I've always wanted to go bald, David.
Really?
I have. I've really wanted to do it. I just don't think I've got the head shape.
It's only one way to find out, Ben.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Don't put it in my head.
I have my trimmers. You know, I trim my beard. I have them back home. You know, whenever we get back to the hotel, bro, just come to my room. I'll fade you up real quick. I'm not saying I'm a professional, but I think I can go bald, right? I feel like anyone can do that.
I think so, yeah.
Right?
That's step one. It's kindergarten in terms of hair cutting.
All right, so we know next APFC show, we're going to see a bald Ben.
Once again, a note for the broadcast for the remainder of the amateur fights. We're going to start them inside the cage. No more walkouts. You can see David Wales now entering. Brandon Gasca shadow boxing in the corner. We send it inside to Shane Graham to get these 2 lightweights underway.
Ladies and gentlemen, this next fight is 3 3-minute rounds in the APFC lightweight division. It's brought to us by Richmond Spine and Rehab. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, a mixed martial artist standing at 5 feet, 10 inches tall. He weighed in at 155.2 pounds and fights out of Durham, North Carolina. Here is Brandon Gasca. And his opponent standing across the cage, fighting out of the red corner, a mixed martial artist making his MMA debut in the cage tonight. He stands 6 feet tall, weighing in at 153.8 pounds, fighting out of Richmond, Virginia. Here is David Louis Wales. And when the action begins, our referee in charge, Matthew Goodhart.
Talk about a big pop for one David Wales.
The hometown boy representing. Let's see if he can live up to the hometown hype.
Brandon Gasca coming into this following a second-round TKO loss to D. Reddick earlier this year. We'll see if he can bounce back from it. David Wales making the amateur MMA debut. Gasca got the edge of experience, but Wales has a lot of creativity. Brandon Gasca deep in on a takedown, gets Wales down.
Gasca catches that leg right away and snaps right into that double leg, putting his opponent on his back right away, landing some good ground and pound. Right on his back, right into the rear naked choke. I mean,
that's deep. David, that is deep.
I think it's deep.
Wow!
That is it.
Less than 30 seconds needed for Brandon Gasca to welcome himself back to the win column. First round submission.
That was it was seamless. You know, double leg, transition, finish. You know, you can't write a textbook clearer than that.
He knew what he needed to do, and he got it done. And another dance inside the octagon.
Man, I gotta bust out my dancing shoes tonight. And that's the third person that's outdid me.
It's interesting. Brandon Gasca told us that he was going to be in and out like the burger joint. He did it.
Do they have in and out here?
I don't think they do.
I mean, man,
unfortunately.
I could do some in and out right now, man. You know,
we'll find a little in and out later. Lightning quick work from Brandon Gasca. 100% finishing rate as an amateur. You just can't cut it up better than that. We send it inside to Shane Graham to make that freaky fast finish official.
Ladies and gentlemen, referee Matthew Goodhart has called a stop to the action at 25 seconds of the very first round, declaring the winner by submission due to a rear naked choke, Brandon Gasca.
2-1 overall with 2 submission victories. representing Richmond, Virginia, born in 2002. He gets it done here tonight. David Evans, let's take it through that quick highlight finish. 25 seconds, all that we needed.
The highlights, I mean the highlight, singular, because I mean he simply got in there, got to work, got to the takedown, drug his opponent down, took his back, took his neck. There isn't much more to call it there. I mean, you just kind of wait for the tap at that point. I mean, he did a great job. That performance was seamless from start to finish.
All in one motion when he was rolling over, locking in the body triangle and getting that sub. Excellent job to Brandon Gasca. We take it to the tail of the tape for our next fight of the evening between Roberto Romero and Isaac Barahona at 145 pounds. Romero 1-0 overall, Isaac Barahona 2-0. 4 years separate these two men, with Roberto Romero being the elder and taller with 1 inch in height. Isaac Barahona weighed in at 145 pounds, Romero 143.8. This one's got fireworks written all over it, David Evans.
Very much so. The demeanor of just both of these fighters speaks to itself. And we've been talking about haircuts and fades all day. Barahona is actually a barber. He gave me a compliment on my fade yesterday. And so, I mean, I don't know if he has a nickname, but maybe Isaac the Barber Barahona. I mean, maybe
like
I'm
it.
onto something.
I'll
take
David
my
Evans.
10%, Isaac, if you hear me.
Here he is, Isaac Barahona. Perfect through 2 bouts. Ahead of his APFC debut. That Modern Warriors camp has been successful tonight. We'll see if he can live up to it. Interesting note about Isaac Barahona. Supposed to be a collegiate wrestler, but due to COVID, went down the mixed martial arts route.
Wow, yeah, it's funny, man, just how COVID just changed the thread of just society in general. And I mean, luckily for Isaac, I mean, he put you on a grand stage like APFC, UFC Fight Pass. I mean, I'd take that detour any day.
You can't hate it. We send it inside to Shane Graham to get these two featherweights underway.
Ladies and gentlemen, this next fight is 3 3-minute rounds in the APFC featherweight division. Brought to us by Rio Brazil Steakhouse. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, a mixed martial artist standing at 5 feet, 8 inches tall. He weighed in at 145 pounds and fights out of Rock Hill, South Carolina. Here is Isaac Barahona. And his opponent across the cage, fighting out of the red corner, a mixed martial artist standing at 5 feet, 9 inches tall. He weighed in at 143.8 pounds and fights out of Richmond, Virginia. Here is Roberto Romero. And when the action begins, our referee in charge, Jason King.
You could convince me that Roberto Romero sold every ticket here tonight with that reception. What a welcome.
Man, the crowd here tonight in Virginia has just been great, man. And just really, really supplementing the fights.
They're electric. Romero Barahona collide at the center.
Both of these guys just putting their head down and throwing their hands. I mean, this is going to be a phone booth fight, you can tell already.
As you say, Barahona deep in on those hips. That was a slick entry. Romero defends well. Love the looping shots of Romero. He's creating some awkward entries.
Barahona with some looping shots of his own. Barahona looking to use his hands to transition to the takedown, as we see early. He took a shot early. It looked like a decent shot, but wasn't able to exactly get in on the hips. But I mean, he just seems to have more dimensions. Maybe we have a low blow here.
Talking about dimensions.
Wasn't quite sure what had happened there.
Downstairs, Isaac Barahona eats a low blow. He did take this fight on 1 week's notice. Had a black eye at the weigh-ins.
Came into this with the black eye, guys. I'm sure he wants everybody to know that.
Yeah, we should have started with that. Here's a highlight of that low blow. David Evans, walk me through it.
Well,
oh man.
A mid-air low blow at that. I mean, that was almost comic book light.
Yeah,
you know, the second he took flight, you know, Romero's just like, nah, I'm going to just throw this out there. Obviously, he wasn't expecting his opponent to jump 3 feet in the air when he threw that teep, right?
Certainly unintentional, but boy, tough placement for Isaac Barahona. Seems like he's all good. And we get back into the action. Isaac Barahona 21 years young. 21 years young, the 8th ranked amateur in South Carolina in the featherweight division. High accolade for such a young guy.
Very much so. I mean, he has a tough opponent here, Romero. Romero just doing a great job coming in, just looking to stalk Barjona. But Barjona is responding very well to every attack that Romero's throwing at him.
Love that tight guard of Barjona, then opening up with some winging shots. Romero circles out beautifully.
Barjona's very Pacquiao-like in the way he throws his strikes. He just throws, comes forward, throws, and then moves. Like his movement and the way he throws, it just reminds me of like a Manny Pacquiao.
You can see Romero. Oh, that one had to have hurt. 90 seconds remain in round number 1.
Romero just gave Barjona some chapstick with that one, man. Just glanced his lips on that one.
Roberto Romero, injured for a long period of time, had a hernia in his back, and that kept him out of competition for 2 years and 8 months. This is a long layoff that Roberto Romero is ending tonight.
Yeah, now he's in a position on his back that he probably hasn't been in a long time. Great transition from the shot by Barjona, but not able to keep the back as he got too high. And now Romero's coming back, just throwing shots after shot.
Roberto Romero teeing off, but Isaac Barjona gives him a mouthful of knee.
Beautiful wrestling transition by Barjona. Got the single leg transition to the body lock with the trap in the arm. However, got a little bit too high. Romero capitalized, saw his way out, came up firing, man.
Oh, beautiful shots by Romero. Barjona momentarily paused. Looked like he was taking pictures. 30 seconds remain in round number 1, David Evans.
You know, I said Barjona reminded me a bit of Pacquiao, but damn, Romero's just kind of throwing that volume, man. It's ridiculous.
And he's ripping to the body, ripping upstairs. There are no areas of the body that Romero is not attacking. Another low blow. We welcome back into the action on 145. Barjona whiffs on a 1-2. Romero circles out.
This one has been fireworks.
Beautiful shot there. Now Barjona deep in on the single. Romero defending beautifully, but for how long can Barjona get him down?
Barjona doing a good job getting back to his roots in the wrestling there. I mean, that was a beautiful shot, beautiful takedown transition, beautiful finish.
Heavy hands from both individuals. Each guy eating leather. David Evans, what a first round.
Man, I mean, it's just so much to talk about in that round. That's a hard one to score. I got to give it to Romero, man. He just, the moments that he had and he capitalized within his striking, it was beautiful.
Let's take it to some highlights. Round number 1, Roberto Romero and Isaac Barjona. David Evans.
Here we have Barjona coming out looking to wrestle right away. You know, got into the shot. However, Romero just kind of stayed poised, defended the shot. We had a low blow, obviously was not intentional as, you know, he threw that teep down the middle. But as Romero kind of got his hands going, the more Romero got his hands going, the more Barjona wanted to wrestle. He got in, changed levels, body lock, got him to the takedown there. Now he's on top. I believe that was more so the finish of the round there. However, Barjona doing a good job transitioning his hands to his wrestling, which is pretty much was the story of that fight. I mean, we saw Romero had some good moments with some flurries there, which would have been great. Very hard round to score going into the second one. I'm going to go Barjona.
Isaac Barjona, Roberto Romero find themselves in the second frame at 145. Beautiful shot right there from Barjona, just coming right over the top. But Romero, in my opinion, a little bit tighter striking so far.
Very much tight, not wasting any motion with his strikes.
Roberto Romero said that he knew his opponent is a wrestler, has been drilling takedown defense this entire camp, feels very confident in striking, and predicted a second round finish. It's time for Romero to come alive.
Here we are. If you bet on that ticket, it's time to cash in if you're Romero.
Like mentioned, Isaac Barjona, full-time barber, loves giving out the cuts. He's chopping it up inside the octagon. State qualifier in high school wrestling. We can certainly see that high-level pedigree presenting itself here tonight at APFC.
And the level change on cue there for Barjona. He's in a good position to finish with the inside trip, which is going to put him right in Romero's guard.
The urgency on Isaac Barjona's face to get this into the grappling domain.
I think that's just kind of been his demeanor so far in this whole fight. If you just kind of look at the expression on his face, like he came out there, you don't know what he's trying to get, but he's like, I got to get something. I got to get my hands on something right away.
Like Denzel Washington says, I'm going home with something.
I'm going home with something.
Roberto Romero, wise to all of the tricks of the trade on the ground.
Romero on his back here doing a great job getting wrist control, almost looking like he was looking to trap the wrist to throw up a triangle. So watch out for the attacks off his back.
1 minute, 10 seconds remains in round number 2. Gotta say, when Roberto Romero started training mixed martial arts, it was only because his younger brother had started months before, and he said, I can't let my younger brother beat me up.
No, man, it's not usually you see that the other way around, you know, where it's Anthony Pettis, Sergio Pettis, but I mean, he's definitely the inverse, and I mean, it's carried him so far.
Romero trying to isolate some arms here, but positionally, just against the cage, not really able to do much.
Barhona's doing everything right here positionally. He has his head where it's supposed to be, great head control, hips are high, so his pressure's constantly coming down here on Romero. His hands are never in a bad place to get trapped and allow his opponent to get wrist control and throw up a triangle, but almost as I say it, we almost saw it there from Romero.
What a grueling pace that Isaac Barahona is setting on the ground here. Again, constant movement, just chipping away at Roberto Romero from all directions. Final 15 seconds. I mean, this is as dominant of a round as you can get.
Very much so, positionally. Barhona's on the back now.
Roberto Romero defending it nicely, but that was a tricky situation. Wow. Isaac Barahona just inching closer and closer to a potential fight-ending sequence.
That was a beautiful transition from, you know, the top mount to the back position there for Barahona. If he had maybe 30 more seconds, maybe we could have saw the end of this fight.
Talking about seeing things, let's take a look at some of the highlights from round number 2, wrestling dominance from Isaac Barahona.
Beautiful shot there by Barahona. He starts at the double leg and then works up to the inside trip and lands right in guard. And then, I mean, literally from the second he landed in guard, went right to work, grinding the head position, keeping the hip pressure, just throwing pot shots whenever he can. But, I mean, position, and control was pretty much the way that entire round went. Transitioning to the back, and you gotta easily give that round there to Barahona.
If you're Roberto Romero, what would be some of the suggestions ahead of this third and final round?
Well, he came out and he started the fight stalking and just letting his hands go. He has to get back there. I feel like once Barahona started shooting, he made an adjustment and went into defensive mode a little bit too much.
Time to let the offense fly. Third and final round between Roberto Romero and Isaac Barahona. Excellent leg kick right there from Romero. Not a weapon we've seen him leverage too much.
And when you have wrestlers, it's always good to attack the legs. I've been on the receiving end of that, you know, and that'll take away some of the pop from their shots.
Again, the tight guard, sophisticated striking from Romero. Distance management with that jab. Beautiful work. Each guy, Romero, the southpaw, Barahona, stance switching really nicely this whole fight.
I love Romero's just old school boxing style, man. It's very beautiful to watch.
Leg kick from Romero. Outside of competition, Roberto Romero works security in downtown Richmond. He's certainly stopped a number of situations outside those clubs.
Very much so.
We'll see if he can stop the situation here tonight in Isaac Barahona.
Barahona feinting with the shot, coming up with the leg kick, shades of TJ Dillashaw.
I feel the question is not if, but when Isaac Barahona is going to shoot. Right there.
He's been doing a very good job of hiding his leg attacks. You know, coming in behind punches, coming in behind feints, so he's just not shooting naked shots there.
Oh, Roberto Romero had some bad intentions on that hook. Isaac Barahona evades, eats another leg kick. Those are adding up, David Evans.
Those are adding up. If I'm Barahona, you definitely want to look into checking some of those kicks or even moving out of the way. But, you know, he's going to get back to his bread and butter with the wrestling there. Romero doing a great job defending, got the double underhooks.
Oh! Massive knees upstairs from both guys. Isaac Barahona with a couple deep breaths. And once again, urgent to find this back to the mat.
Look, we know where Barahona wants to be. So if you're Romero, you gotta maybe switch up your attacks too. We know his hands are clean. Maybe throw a knee or an uppercut up the middle.
Final minute remains. Can Roberto Romero put some heat on this final round? Isaac Barahona exchanging, Barahona down.
Nice short left hook by Romero. We spoke to his beautiful pocket punching there, and as we see it, it almost paid off for him and put an end to the fight. But Barahona being stubborn, going back to his wrestling with that wrestler mentality, and grinded right through it, and now he's on top.
It's ironic how the knockdown seemed advantageous for Barahona.
Very much so. It's like he wouldn't, I don't think that's the one time in the fight he didn't plan on shooting.
Roberto Romero grounded, getting collapsed right here. Final 15 seconds. Some hellacious elbows from Isaac Barahona.
Last 10 seconds here of this round. Look for Barahona to just let it all go here. He's in a dominant position on top. He's definitely had to earn every second of this fight, and I think this is a great win for Barahona. You have to go through fights like this to become a great fighter.
1 week notice for Isaac Barahona.
And the black eye was already there.
The black eye was already there. Don't think that came as a result of Romero. However, Roberto Romero certainly got his licks in tonight, and both guys raising the hands. I would say no one's stock went down.
Standout performance by both guys. These are the fights that people pay to see, Ben.
And look at that, some dance moves from Isaac Barahona. Everybody's had some really good movement tonight.
All right, Ben, if you see me on the main event just out here jigging, don't say nothing if I'm not on the mic. If I just start my 1-2 step, just let me do it.
If you start moving, I'll let you go.
Just let me have it.
Let's take it to this third and final round. Some highlights, David Evans, walk me through.
Here we go, Barahona doing what he does best, getting right to the shots. He didn't get every shot, but he worked off of every shot. Got the shot, feinted shots, came up. We saw some good strikings, but he always went right back to his bread and butter. And, you know, that was the key to victory for him, so to speak, tonight. Just get into his shots. Whether he got them or not, he was making his opponent work and constantly putting Romero on the back foot. Here we have that short left-hand shot where Romero clipped Barahona, and we thought, you know, Barahona was going down, but it really just brought him where he wanted to be. Right back to the shot, ended up on top, and just kind of let it all go here in the last 10 or 15 seconds of this fight.
What a great effort by Roberto Romero, but again, we believe that Barahona's done enough. Let's head inside to Shane Graham to find out the winner between these two fighters.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 3 hard-fought rounds of action, we go to the judges' scorecards for a decision. Our judges scored this contest 29-28 Barahona, 29-28 Romero, and 29-28 for your winner by split decision, Isaac Barahona!
And still undefeated. 7 days notice, 3 days notice, it doesn't matter. Isaac Barahona finds the way to win. David Evans, let's take one last look at the full fight highlights between Roberto Romero and Isaac Barahona.
And this fight was full of them, fireworks from start to finish. We knew Isaac Barahona was going to come out and be the wrestler that he's known to be. However, Romero gave 0 inch this entire fight. Fist of fury, he came out throwing punches in bunches. He almost made Barahona wrestle in certain spots because he put him in danger. Barahona was very intelligent, you know, feinted the shots, would come up with strikes, feinted the strikes, would go to the shot, through everything but the kitchen sink here at Romero and put him on his back, and I think that is what gave him the win here tonight. Just stay consistent and stayed attached to the style and his base of wrestling. Beautiful inside trip, shades of Henry Cejudo there, you kind of see that, and just brawled it out on top. I like everything that I saw from both of these guys. Nobody leaves here with a loss, you know, so to speak, tonight.
And still undefeated is Isaac Barahona. He has not stopped moving that entire post-fight celebration. Let's take it to a quick tail of the tape for our next fight of the evening. Again, David, we're making history. The first Muay Thai bout inside APFC between Ethan Leaky Kai and Ahmed Say. Kai making the debut. Say 2-1. Lot of difference in age here, 11 years between them. Kai 21, Sisse at 32, 5'10" on both sides. Ethan Kai at 150.2 pounds, Ahmed Sisse at 149.6. We send it inside to Shane Graham to bring these two Muay Thai combatants into the octagon. One thing I want to mention about Ahmed Sisse is he has fallen in love with this sport since starting training. This is a passion for him that goes as deep as the blood inside of his body, David Evans.
Well, that's a lot to say, and I mean, we expect to see him to go out there and spill that passion into the cage here tonight.
When asked what the hardest challenge was, he said the first time stepping in, right? That debut, getting all of the jitters out, that was the singular hardest moment. Everything else has not compared since.
You know, it's definitely a hard thing, a hard concept to wrap your head around if you've never done it before. You know, to step into a cage or a ring and fight another man. I mean, like I said earlier, we do every day what people try to avoid. You know, but once you do it that first time, the bug bites you, and then it's like, oh, I got to get back to it. I got to get back to it. So clearly he loves it. He has a passion for it. So I expect him to go out there and just lay it all on the line.
Ahmed Sisse, when asked what the game plan is or strategy, he just said being better, more technical, better stamina, cleaner striking, just levels above is what Ahmed Sisse is prepared to show.
Well, I guess if you're better, you can't mess up. I mean, you can't go wrong with that if you're better. I mean, you can't argue with that approach.
Certainly, though, a high bar to try and find yourself at. Ahmed Sisse making history in the first APFC Muay Thai bout. Marking the rings, taking a long walk around is Ahmed Sisse. That's establishing the territory, David.
Very, very traditional in his approach towards Muay Thai, and that just speaks, you know, to the passion and respect that he has for the sport.
Do you have an idea of what that means when he's marking the post like that?
I do not, but I could come up with something if you need me to. I can probably, no, I have no idea. I can't even BS that one for you, Ben.
We could say it's an ancient Thai technique that dates back to the mid-17th century in Phuket. The warriors back in the day would make sure that they'd have their family, their friends, and their fighting.
Oh, so you asking me questions you already know the answer to, Ben?
Oh, no, David Evans, I just made that up.
You are phenomenal.
Ethan Cambo Slice Licky Kai. You can hear the hometown reception for the gladiator in the pink and black. His eyes have not left Ahmed Sisse. We'll see what he can do with it. Let's send it inside to Shane Graham to get this Muay Thai bout underway.
Ladies and gentlemen, this next fight is three 3-minute rounds. A special 150-pound catchweight bout of Muay Thai. This bout is brought to us by Yodel Mobile. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, a Muay Thai practitioner standing at 5 feet, 10 inches tall. He weighed in at 149.6 pounds and fights out of Alexandria, Virginia. Here is Ahmed Sisse. And his opponent standing across the cage, fighting out of the red corner, another Muay Thai practitioner standing at 5 feet, 10 inches tall. He weighed in at 150.2 pounds. Fighting out of Richmond, Virginia, here is Ethan Cambo Slice Key. And when the action begins, our referee in charge is Lisa Cuellar.
Ethan Kai and Ahmed Sisse making history in APFC. David Evans, our first Muay Thai bout.
The first Muay Thai bout, nothing but strikes. I mean, it can't disappoint, right?
Ahmed Sisse Coming quick at the hometown hero. You heard that reception in Richmond for Ethan Campo Slice. This crowd loves it.
Sase coming out the gate right away, fires a hard pistol-like right hand, and a sweep by Kai.
Campo Slice keeping the movement up. Excellent shot right there from Sase.
He's sneaking that right hand in there almost effortlessly.
Ahmed Sase motioning to the right leg. Something might be going on with it. Ethan Kai taking advantage, clipping the chin of Ahmed Sase.
Punches and bunches from Kai. Snuck an elbow in there, if I'm correct.
Love the framing and then bringing it in. Here he is, unloading on Ahmed Sase. Got a little overzealous with that elbow.
Sase seems to be a little off balance, something going on with his knee. He can't quite catch his footing, but he's not giving up, fighting with that warrior spirit.
Referee eliciting
a standing 8 count, I believe, by the referee.
Ahmed Sase trying to work that leg back in, but seems by all accounts that there is something really wrong with it.
Maybe he slightly subluxed, or maybe a dislocation, or...
His corner says it's time to go. You don't have much time. Oh! Big check right there brings Ethan back to the canvas. Each guy's getting tested here. 3 2-minute rounds. Who knows if we're gonna need all of them.
Not a lot of time to work, so they're just coming out giving it all right away. Sase has to decide if he's gonna fight through it or not, and the ref's gonna make the decision for him, and that's gonna be it.
Ethan Campo Slice, Leaky Kai, the winner in Richmond, Virginia. Our first victor in a Muay Thai bout here in APFC. History made.
You know what? I liked what I saw from Sase. I hate that he couldn't continue because this was looking like it's going to be a very well-contested fight.
Even with that injury, Ahmed Sase was able to find some shots of his own. David Evans, let's take a look at some of them. The first Muay Thai bout in APFC history, what'd you see?
Here we have it right away. Sase coming out, throwing the kick and sneaking that right hand right down the middle. We saw that a few times from him throughout the fight, and I was excited to see how he was going to advance and build off of that. You know, these guys were clinching, and this is where the injury maybe took place, where Kai looked to sweep Sase, and I think that using the knee at the post, it just kind of bumped Sase's knee maybe in the wrong direction, and he just kind of wavered from that point on. Still fought along with the fighting spirit. Beautiful check knee by Sase on Kai there, set him on his butt. But Kai was able to come forward and march forward, and the ref called the end of this fight simply because Sase just looked like he didn't want to continue.
Despite Brock's tattoo earlier, the human body is not invincible, and you know, if you make one wrong move, it could cause some serious damage. But either way, Ethan Kai, the victor here tonight. Seems like he's got a good corner behind him as well.
Definitely getting their little 5 minutes of fame there.
Just peeking over the flag. Ahmed Sase and Ethan Kai embracing ringside. Good to see that sportsmanship and respect. And again, it was a tough injury that really debilitated Ahmed Sase. We'll see if he can be back. Let's take it to the tail of the tape for our next fight of the night at welterweight between David Brigida and Christian Gonzalez. Brigida 2-0 overall. Christian Gonzalez 3-3. 12 months separate these two individuals, with David Brigida coming in at 29 years old and Christian Gonzalez 28. Only 1 inch though. David Brigida 5'10", Gonzalez 5'11". Each guy 169, but Brigida at 0.6 and Gonzalez at 0.8.
I'm excited to see this one here, Ben.
In terms of stories and guys that we got the chance to talk with, Christian Gonzalez certainly had one that could easily be made into a movie, with the experience as a ranger, 10 years of law enforcement, and then here he is fighting at APFC.
Military guy, you know, says he's been shot at, said he's been in the hand-to-hand combat situations, and now he's doing it professionally, or he's doing it in an organized fashion, so to speak. I'm excited to see how that trans into here. Is he going to come in with a fighting spirit, or is he going to approach this from a martial arts perspective and tactically try to fight his opponent?
I'm sure he'll definitely leverage both. Again, one tour in Iraq, jumping out of airplanes. The two things he told us about that experience that stuck with me were being stabbed and being bitten across seas.
Yes, the bitten part was the most interesting.
I don't know who's biting
I'm just
him.
trying to imagine, you know, in warfare, like, when can you get bitten?
When can you fight someone? Here he is, Christian Gonzalez, serving the country, and now Gonzo is serving the combat sports community. His opponent, David Brigida, grew up wrestling, coached high school wrestling after college, and that's how he fell into district mixed martial arts, one of the highest level gyms that they've got here, and you can see he was fired up coming into the octagon.
Very intense coming into the cage. I mean, he's a wrestler, definitely has a wrestler look, has a wrestler mentality. I may be a slightly biased, you know, coming up as a wrestler, but I want to see him implement his game plan tonight.
We send it inside to Shane Graham to get this 170-pound affair underway.
Ladies and gentlemen, this next fight is three-minute rounds in the APFC welterweight division. This fight is presented to us by Third Coast T-shirts. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, a mixed martial artist standing at 5 feet, 11 inches tall. He weighed in at 169.8 pounds and fights out of Raleigh, North Carolina. Here is Christian Gonzo Gonzalez. And his opponent across the cage, fighting out of the red corner, a mixed martial artist standing at 5 feet, 10 inches tall. He weighed in at 169.6 pounds. Fighting out of Arlington, Virginia, here is David Brigida. And when the action begins, our referee in charge is Jason King.
David Brigida, the 15th ranked amateur welterweight, just at 29 years young. Wrestled at Virginia Tech, Division I, redshirt junior. We'll see how that helps him here tonight against Gonzo.
Look for him to come out and get to his leg attacks right away and just pressure. He said pressure was going to be the key to victory for him here tonight, and as you see, he comes out firing.
Leaping into the arms of Christian Gonzalez, and record is certainly not reflective of his ability. Started the career on a 3-fight skid, now 3-fight win streak for Christian Gonzalez.
Definitely has been able to turn the tide here in these last 3 fights and, you know, possibly, potentially carry that on here into the APFC.
Great shot on the break for Christian Gonzalez. Gonzo moving on the bike effectively. Excellent parrying as well. There's that Virginia Tech shot right there.
David coming in right on the single leg after throwing that hand. Gonzo doing a great job defending, you know, getting his hips off the line there. Nice underhook.
David Brigida outside of competition, starting a meal prep business, Farm to Fuel Foods. On the weekends, that's what he dedicates his time to. If you need something healthy, I'd imagine David Brigida's the guy.
Brigida's doing a great job there. Has both legs trapped in that figure 4, you know, typical wrestler position. You see that a lot from the likes of like a Khabib, Nurmagomedov, or Ben Askren. They get in on shots, they lock up those legs, and they just chip away at you on top until they can advance.
And what's interesting about David is the cauliflower ear really isn't that prevalent. You would expect, at least I would expect, a wrestler to have a little bit more of a balloon on the side of his head.
Yeah, you know, I'm going to take my headphones off for you, Ben, and show you. No, that just kind of speaks probably to his style. He's probably a little more technical, not just like a brute and just marches forward. Probably a little more technical in his approach to grappling and wrestling, and that's why you don't see the ear trauma, a.k.a. the cauliflower ear.
70 seconds left in round number 1. Gonzo largely rendered defenses here on the ground. What can he do to pop back up to the feet?
Well, right now, when you got someone like David Brigida on top of you, you just got to try to move. You don't want to overthink it. Don't give him your back, you know, but just try to move and get to a different position. When you have a dominant wrestler that's heavy on top like that, he probably feels like a brick wall is laying on top of him right now.
Christian Gonzalez said that the hardest part about mixed martial arts was himself working through the mental frustrations of the game, the questions that training and difficulty with learning new tactics and strategies can pose, but feels like he was confident as he could be in fight week.
Very much so, man. Martial arts is problem solving at the highest degree with the highest risk. You got 1/10 of a second to make adjustments when you're in there, and right now Gonzo needs to make an adjustment and possibly get to his feet where I think he has the best chance of being successful here tonight.
10 seconds remains. He was able to land a nice little kick that momentarily brought David Brigida back, but Brigida just clearly strong as a tank as he closes out round number 1. Big strikes by both guys, don't land. Interesting round, kind of what we would have expected from a Virginia Tech wrestler in David Brigida.
Very much so. Brigida did exactly what he said he was going to come out here to do tonight. Pressure forward and wrestle, and that's what we saw, and that's why I'm going to give him the nod in that first round.
When we think about what Christian Gonzalez can do, obviously stay on the feet, name of the game, but are there any tactics he can employ?
His rebuttal, he has to put Brigida on his back foot. So you often see wrestlers that come out, that pressure forward, but they're not used to someone doing that to them. You know, sometimes you have to go out there and you have to bully the bully to win a fight, and that's what Gonzo has to do.
Once again, this fight is brought to you by Third Coast T-Shirts. If you want some good wear upstairs, head over to Third Coast T-Shirts. David Brigida getting married next year as well. A lot of life changes for that 29-year-old. Seems like he's got his head in the right place, David.
Very much so, and definitely here in this fight tonight in his approach, you know, sticking to what he's good at, his bread and butter, coming out and just implementing his game plan, T for T.
Might be contrary to the first several minutes, but he did say that while he's known for the wrestling, and that's probably his best base, his striking is something to be seen, and bets that Christian Gonzalez isn't going to be aware of how good those hands are. Excellent land by Brigida.
Big right hand, and then transitions to a big double leg by Brigida. Locks the legs up right away, does not let Gonzo settle in that position. Locks the leg up and look for him to maybe transition to the back to where he can maybe finish this fight.
Gonzo trying to maybe build a base here and post and raise. Can he get back to his feet? That body lock right there for Brigida is broken.
Gonzalez did a good job building his base. You know, that's something we didn't necessarily see in the first round. He felt that pressure on top and was like, hey, I don't want to be here, worked his way up, and now he's in a better position to even get his back off of the cage.
There is no question about the heart and willpower of Christian Gonzalez. Again, starting the career with a 3-fight losing streak, 0-3, and now battling his way back. You just can't question him.
Yeah, there's something about coming out and being successful, but there's a different type of beast. It takes a different type of person to lose and then come back. That's what defines a fighter.
David Brigida partially lands with a head kick right there. Gonzalez leaping in with some hooks, but Brigida evades. Seems like he's just unsure of when to pull the trigger on the feet.
However, Brigida does. You know, whenever Gonzalez does attempt to throw a strike, you see Brigida duck under those shots, get right to his double leg, wrap those legs up, and go to work.
What is the best practice in breaking that lock and finding your feet back under you?
So he has to use his hands and push Brigida's hips off so his knees can go below his knees. So once Gonzalez gets his knees out of that lock there, he'll have room to maybe work and go into like a butterfly guard and then work in advance from there.
He'll have 45 seconds with which to make those adjustments. Round number 2 has been largely business as usual for David Brigida, who's now flowing to the back, David.
And Gonzalez was doing the right thing. He's got his knees free, but however, Brigida was just staying to it. Every time Gonzalez adjusts, Brigida adjusts. And now he's on the back with a tight crank. Not quite a choke yet.
You can see Brigida.
It's under the chin, Ben.
Squeezing away. Can Gonzo hang on? 15 seconds remain in round number 2. That's a Virginia Tech squeeze, David.
Man, Brigida just going right back to it. Short time here by Gonzalez. He's a fighter. Is he going to fight through it? He needs to get his back to the cage here.
It's going to take a little bit more than that to finish Gonzo, but what another good round by David Brigida. Just really checking all the boxes that you want from him.
Almost got the finish, but not quite. But if I'm Brigida's coach, I talk to him in the corner and I say, hey, we don't change a thing. You go back to what's been working. Gonzalez, we know what he has to do. He has to put Brigida on his back foot. He's been reacting this entire fight, just reacting. He needs to take the initiative and take control of this fight. Here we have some highlights here, and I'll walk you guys through that. Brigida, the shot has been carrying him through this entire fight. Gets to the shot, wraps the leg up in the figure four, the Russian tie with the legs there, and he has much success there on the ground. Another beautiful double leg just blasts right through Gonzo's defense. Gets into the position, sneaks his way to his opponent's back, gets the rear naked choke. However, Gonzalez was able to fight the hands, and he lasts another 5 minutes here.
Talk to me about the body language of Christian Gonzalez and David Brigida. Brigida taking some very deep breaths in between rounds.
Gonzalez really is coming out with a sense of urgency. He takes the center of the cage right away, and Brigida just kind of doing what he's been doing, staying calm, staying relaxed, landing a big shot, but we know what we're going to do and what we're going to see after that.
Some creativity from Gonzo with the spinning back kick. Doesn't land. Brigida.
Beautiful
shot,
sprawl by Gonzalez.
Now Gonzo trading, needs to remain on his feet.
Brigida doing a great job, feinting the hands, but then feinting the shot, so you're not quite able to pick up on his timing. Gonzalez in the center of the cage, moving his hands, touching up Brigida a little bit. Nice little switch stance, right hand overhook there, but Brigida goes right back to the double leg.
Beautiful shot from Brigida. Wrapped it all up and brought the bigger man down. 2 minutes remain, and it's hard to imagine that Christian Gonzalez is going to be able to get out of this position.
Yeah, I think what Gonzalez needs, especially against a wrestler of the caliber of Brigida, he needs an attack off of his back. So it's one of those things where when it comes to wrestling, it's a time thing. You're never going to catch up to Brigida's wrestling. But what you can do, you can build a defense to their wrestling. Maybe work a guillotine, maybe work on setting up a triangle. And if he adds that, he won't have as much of an issue against wrestlers of this caliber.
Gonzo reverses position. 90 seconds remains. He's got a minute and a half to try and finish this one. You can see him looking for maybe a potential choke. Separation.
Nice sweep there, got Brigida off balance, but wasn't able to capitalize.
Oh!
Threw the knee up the middle. I mean, that's the perfect counter for someone that is going to shoot in. Throw a knee up the middle, throw an elbow up the middle, an uppercut, anything to detour that shot.
That really got David Brigida blinking. Christian Gonzalez, though, tried his absolute best, but floored once again, now in the center of the octagon.
And it looks like Brigida's going to be able to advance past half guard here and possibly into mount. But you see often all the times as a wrestler, and I'm comfortable there, is we're comfortable in half guard. We want to hang out here. It's not as much danger as full guard. It's a little more safe, a lot more stable than full guard, so to speak. So look for Brigida to maybe even just kind of hang out here in half guard, land some ground and pound, land his shots, and just smother Gonzalez for the rest of the round here. 30 seconds left. He's done everything he's needed to do to win.
Christian Gonzalez tried to swim in the waters of David Brigida, but largely drowning here as we approach the final stretch of round 3. The work rate of David Brigida cannot be questioned as he puts in some well-earned rounds here in the APFC octagon.
Brigida's just perpetual motion this has been for Brigida from round 1, the first second of round 1, all the way to the culmination of round 3. He has not stopped moving, he has not stopped shooting, he has not stopped pressuring his opponent, and that is going to give him the win, in my opinion, tonight.
I would agree. The red shirt junior showing up, showing out in the mixed martial arts realm, still remaining undefeated at 3-0 now. First time he hasn't finished an opponent, so props to Christian Gonzalez for having the toughness to last the full 3 rounds. Nobody's been able to do that since.
No finish, but he did everything right for every second of the round, and I think that's almost even more impressive than a finish at times.
Arlington, Virginia's David Brigida, coached by Kamal Shalaris and Charles DeGisco. They're going to be happy with that one when they go and break the tape down. You know, he said coming into this that without arrogance, he felt he's 3 to 4 levels above this current level of competition. Kind of hard to deny that with a performance like that.
Very much so. I mean, his performance was definitely a testament to his belief.
we send it inside to Shane Graham to find out the winner between David Brigida and Christian Gonzalez.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 3 hard-fought rounds of action, we go to the judges' scorecards for a decision. All 3 judges score this contest 30-27 for your winner by unanimous decision, David Brigida!
David Brigida, still undefeated at 3-0, finds himself to the scorecards for the first time in what looks to be a promising mixed martial arts career. Great effort by him, and good job by Christian Gonzalez to leave it all inside there. Let's take it to a couple highlights, David. Show me, or rather tell me, what you're seeing.
Here we have it, the shot here from Brigida. I mean, that was the name of the game here. He told us right away, I'm 3 to 4 levels better than him. My wrestling, he's not going to be able to stop it. And that's exactly what he went out there and did. He set up his shots. We saw some clean striking in intervals there from Brigida. However, the striking is what set him apart from Gonzalez in this fight. Got to the back, almost got a few finishes. Unfortunately, wasn't able to solidify him. However, every second of this fight, he stayed true to his character. He stayed true to what he does best. Got to his wrestling, stuck to the game plan, pressure, pressure, pressure. Was able to pull out a dominant win here tonight, if you ask me.
The doctor ordered a clinical performance, and David Bergman happily obliged. Good job by both individuals, and hopefully we'll see David back soon. Want to say this is our last amateur bout. Thank you all for tuning into the YouTube prelim stream. We'll catch you for the main card live on UFC Fight Pass for APF 6, Richmond, Virginia.